Gusanos. Yeah. Right, what's up, chat? How you doing? Check 1 2. Check. I don't know, chat. Can you hear me? Fuck is it quaffed anyway? What's happening? Stupid camera! How dare you! UV, baby.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report.
Well, it was 95 degrees today. It's pretty hot for March. Not normally like that hot at all. I think that's a pretty good record for here. Anyway, it's crazy. It's a mild 80 in my room right now. It feels like it's 60 compared to 90.
I'm Amy Goodman. Israel says it's killed Iran's intelligence minister, Ismail Khatib, in a strike overnight in Tehran. It's the latest assassination of Iran's senior leadership. This comes as Iran is set to hold funerals today for its security chief, Ali Larijani, and Basij commander Gholamreza Soleimani, both of whom were also killed in an Israeli strike on Tuesday. Iran vowed revenge and launched retaliatory strikes against Israel. 2 people were killed near Tel Aviv by an Iranian missile strike, Israeli emergency responders said earlier today. On Tuesday, the U.S. dropped 5,000-pound bunker buster bombs along Iran's coast near the Strait of Hormuz to target Iran's anti-ship cruise missiles.
They're going to land on that island.
It causes Joe Kent, the director of the U.S. National Counterterrorism
They're
Center,
going to land on the island
resigned Tuesday over the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. In a letter to President Trump posted on X, Kent wrote, quote, "Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it's clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby," unquote. Kent is the first senior official to openly break with the White House over the war on Iran. He's a longtime Trump supporter who unsuccessfully ran for Congress twice.
Yes,
During his
he's not even that good of a person.
Bid, Kent hired a member of the far-right Proud Boys as a consultant. Meanwhile, top intelligence officials are expected to testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee later today. It comes as senior Israeli officials have told U.S. diplomats Iranian protesters will, quote, get slaughtered, unquote, if they demonstrate against their government, even as Israel has been promoting anti-regime protests. That's according to a State Department cable reviewed by the Washington Post. Iran's Ministry of Health says at least 1,444 people have been killed and nearly 19,000 injured in U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran since February 28th. This is a worker with the Iranian Red Crescent.
During the operations of the imposed war from the U.S. and Israel against my country, the Islamic State of Iran, we have seen many heartbreaking scenes. Unfortunately, we have witnessed killing and injuring many of our civilian citizens that happened during the attacks to residential places at night or during other times, and created tragic scenes.
Iran continues to launch retaliatory strikes against its neighbors in the region. In Iraq, Iranian rocket attacks have targeted the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, and a drone sparked a fire at a luxury hotel in Baghdad's heavily fortified Green Zone. In the UAE, an Iranian projectile landed near a military base that hosts Australian troops. Several Gulf nations, including Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates said they're continuing to intercept Iranian missiles and drones. On Monday, Iran launched almost 100 drones at Saudi Arabia, according to the Saudi Defense Ministry. Israel launched airstrikes on central Beirut earlier today, demolishing a residential high-rise building. The Israeli military issued an evacuation warning for the building in central Beirut, saying it was a facility used by Hezbollah. Meanwhile, in southern Lebanon, Israeli troops have been conducting ground operations, ordering the evacuation of several villages. According to the Lebanese Public Health Ministry, at least 912 people, including 111 children, have been killed, and 2,221 people have been wounded in Lebanon's assault on Israel's assault on Lebanon. The Norwegian Refugee Council said 1 million people, about a sixth of Lebanon's population, have been displaced. This is Tamim Al-Khitan, a spokesperson for the UN Commissioner for Human Rights.
In many instances, Israeli airstrikes have destroyed entire residential buildings in dense urban environments with multiple members of the same family, including women and children, often killed together. Such attacks raise concerns under international humanitarian law.
Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, issued a stark warning about the Strait of Hormuz, saying in a post on X that the strait, quote, won't return to its pre-war status, unquote. This comes as President Trump blasted NATO members as they informed the U.S. they will not get involved in Trump's coalition to reopen the strait. In a post on X, President Trump wrote, quote, I'm not surprised by their action, however, because I always considered NATO, where we spend hundreds of billions of dollars per year protecting these same countries, to be a one-way street. We'll protect them, but they will do nothing for us, in particular in a time of need, Trump said. This is French President Emmanuel Macron.
Macron! For you!
We are not party to the conflict, and therefore France will never take part in operations to open or liberate the Strait of Hormuz in the current context.
Gas prices in the U.S. continue to increase as Iran has effectively blocked the Strait of Hormuz, which sees the passage of about 20% of the world's oil supply. According to AAA, the national average price for gas reached $3.84 a gallon Wednesday, rising 5 cents a day. Overall, gas prices have jumped 29% since the war began. This comes as the UN warns 45 million people around the world are at risk of acute hunger due to rising food prices sparked by the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran. Here in the United States, Attorney General Pam Bondi and her deputy, Todd Blanche, are set to testify before the House Oversight Committee on the Justice Department's handling of the Epstein files later today. Committee Chair James Comer subpoenaed Bondi yesterday, writing in a letter, quote, as Attorney General, you are directly responsible for overseeing the department's collection, review, and determinations regarding the release of files pursuant to the Epstein Files Transparency Act, and the committee therefore believes that you possess valuable insight into these efforts, Comer wrote. Meanwhile, a New York Times review of thousands of pages of Justice Department documents found the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein spent heavily on a rotating team of search engine optimization experts, self-described hackers, and content writers to reshape how Epstein appeared on Google and Wikipedia after his 2008 sex crimes conviction.
Yep.
Senate Democrats late Tuesday sent the White House a new counteroffer to fund the Department of Homeland Security, which has been under a partial shutdown for more than a month. The Trump administration has so far ignored demands from Democrats, such as requiring officers to obtain a judicial warrant to enter private homes and to address the excessive use of force by immigration
Remember this,
agents.
you guys?
Earlier
Remember this
Tuesday,
short king
the administration
loser?
signaled it's open to
Bambino?
enforcing, quote, the use of visible officer identification, though Trump officials have not conceded to prohibiting officers from wearing face coverings. This comes as Trump's Homeland Security Secretary nominee, Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin, is set to appear before a Senate committee today as his confirmation process begins. Trump appointed Mullin to replace Kristi Noem, who was fired from the position as head of Department of Homeland Security earlier this month. Several immigrants from El Salvador who were deported by the Trump administration last year have been disappeared and subjected to arbitrary detention in their home country. That's according to a new report by Human Rights Watch, which said at least 11 deported Salvadorans have languished in detention for months since being deported from the United States to El Salvador. They have not been allowed to communicate with their families or provided due process. Some of them were deported last March, along with dozens of Venezuelans, and sent to the troubled Secat mega prison in El Salvador, where there are mounting reports of torture, including sexual violence. A federal judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration from terminating temporary protected status, that's TPS, for immigrants from Somalia. The judge's emergency order came as the relief was slated to end yesterday. The Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE's Minnesota chapter, said in a statement, quote, "This decision brings a critical moment of relief for Somali families across Minnesota and the country who've been living under the weight of uncertainty," unquote. Minnesota is home to one of the largest Somali populations in the United States. The Trump administration is considering withholding HIV treatment, tuberculosis, and malaria medications from Zambia in order to force the country to open its mines to U.S. companies. That's according to a leaked State Department memo obtained by the New York Times. The memo says, quote, "We will only secure our priorities by demonstrating willingness to publicly take support away from Zambia on a massive scale," unquote. The proposed deal would offer Zambia $1 billion in health funding over 5 years, which is less than half of what the country received before President Trump took office.
Wow.
In return, Zambia would need to grant U.S. companies access to its copper, cobalt, and lithium reserves and agreed to restructure a nearly $500 million agricultural grant to require regulatory changes in its mining sector. About 1.3 million people in Zambia rely on daily HIV treatment provided through U.S. aid programs. Cuba's restored power after a 29-hour island-wide blackout left millions of people without electricity. Cuban energy officials said they'd reconnected the national power grid that had completely collapsed Monday. But blackouts are expected to continue. A U.S. energy blockade has cut off Cuba from accessing desperately needed fuel as the Trump administration intensifies its pressure to topple the Cuban government. The Justice Department's dismissed charges against an Army veteran who set a U.S. flag on fire across the street from the White House last year. The protest held by John J. Kerry came in response to a Trump executive order that mandated federal agencies to vigorously prosecute anyone who burns the U.S. flag. Kerry was not charged with flag burning, but faced 2 misdemeanors, including for igniting a fire in an undesignated area. A 1989 Supreme Court ruling determined the burning of a U.S. flag as protected speech under the First Amendment.
Correct.
A federal judge in
Loser.
Rhode Island ordered the Trump administration to restore a union contract with 320,000 Veterans Affairs Department workers. This comes after Doug Collins, the VA secretary, canceled the union agreement back in August. U.S. District Judge Melissa DuBose agreed with the American Federation of Government Employees that the VA canceled its bargaining agreement as retaliation for the union's opposition to the Trump administration's labor policies. Everett Kelly, the president of the American Federation of Government Employees, said the ruling, quote, holds this administration accountable and makes clear no one can retaliate against workers for standing up for their rights, unquote.
Gee, you hope.
And in Illinois, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton won Tuesday's Democratic Senate primary in a race to succeed Senator Dick Durbin, who's retiring. Al Jazeera and The Intercept reported dozens of donor groups aligned with the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, known as AIPAC, gave money to Stratton's campaign. If elected in November, Stratton could become the 6th black woman to serve in the Senate in U.S. history. Meanwhile, Evanston Mayor Daniel Biss won the Democratic primary in a closely watched race for a U.S. House seat that's not been vacant for nearly 3 decades. More than a dozen Democrats ran to succeed the retiring Congressmember John Schakowsky, who's been in office since 1999. Progressive candidate Kat Ubagazala finished second. Groups linked to AIPAC spent millions of dollars attacking both her and Biss. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.
MS Now's Kevin Fry is reporting on Capitol Hill. MS Now's Ken Delanian from Washington, D.C. And MS Now is here on set. So, David, what do you make of how Tulsi Gabbard answered that question when she was pushed? And she's not the only, she got numerous questions from numerous members of this committee, but pushed on the intelligence that the president had, that the U.S. had surrounding the war in Iran.
She evaded the answers. And look, these are difficult hearings, again, for officials. They're supposed to be apolitical, but what you see with these Trump appointees, and particularly Gabbard, is that they were repeatedly saying, I'll talk to you about that in a private session, or just simply not answering the question. There was one of the military officials was asked, will air power alone achieve, what the Trump administration wants in Iran?
No, it won't.
And he kind of dodged the question and didn't want to talk about it. John Ratcliffe, the CIA director, was asked, do you trust Vladimir Putin? This is about this issue of Russia providing intelligence to Iran. President Trump spoke with Vladimir Putin, and Putin said, oh, no, we're not doing that. And so it's extraordinary. He was honest and said, I do not trust Vladimir Putin, Ratcliffe did. But again, he said, let's talk about this in private session. The president is saying and making claims that are objectively false, and it puts all of these military and intelligence officials in very awkward positions.
Awkward is definitely the word for it. Ken, the intelligence community also released its annual threat assessment, and it coincided with the hearing. Senator Warner accused Gabbard of omitting a section from her opening statement. Let me play that.
What?
I guess what I'm concerned about, one thing is, even in your printed testimony today on page 6, and your last paragraph on page 6, as a result of Operation Midnight Hammer, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated. There's been no efforts to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. You omitted that paragraph from your oral opening. Was that because the president said there was an imminent threat 2 weeks?
No, sir. I recognize that the time was running long, and I skipped through some of the portions
So you chose to take
of my oral delivered remarks.
You chose to omit the parts that contradict the president.
So, Ken, talk a little bit more, please, about that actual assessment compared to what she actually
Tulsi Gabbard.
to say.
Yeah, Chris, she not only admitted that section of her prepared opening remarks, she actually substituted it with something that said something different. She said, prior to Operation Epic Fury, that's the name of the attack on Iran, The IC assesses that Iran was trying to recover from the severe damage to its nuclear infrastructure sustained in the 12-day war and continued to refuse to comply with its nuclear obligations as at the IAEA receive access to key facilities. So it's changed it to essentially say Iran was being recalcitrant as if to try to justify retroactively the attack and suggest there was a threat, when clearly what she was saying in the prepared text, which may have been written days or weeks ago, that there wasn't. So that was a discordant note. And look, in general, I've been covering these threat hearings for 15 years, Chris. The unclassified document that they released prioritizing the threats against the United States was a very strange document. It led with threats from border security and transnational criminal organizations at a time when we're at war with Iran in the Middle East. That's what it led with. There's nobody in the IC that thinks that that is the top threat to the United States, but that is the political priority of the Trump administration, and so that's how that document read. And you had to go pages and pages into this 36-page assessment to find out about the assessment of the threat from China, about terrorism, about other nation states, things that used to be fundamental and front and center, cyber threats. And as Mark Warner pointed out, Chris, there was no mention in this document and very little discussion at this hearing of foreign threats in terms of manipulating how Americans think on social media. That's still happening. It's just that the intelligence community has unilaterally disarmed, has done away with the foreign threats task forces at the FBI and the DNI because Donald Trump didn't like what those things were doing. And so they're not looking at those things. And Mark Warner and other Democrats believe it's still a big problem, Chris.
So this is a complicated question, I understand, but I also trust that you'll give us some insight into it. If an average American has decided to watch this because they really do want to know about the threats, they want to know what the position is of this administration and how they're handling it, what are they supposed to take away from this? How are they supposed to process it? They're not intelligence experts.
No, that's an excellent question. And as David was alluding to before, what was clear from this hearing is these intelligence officials who are supposed to be sort of even-handed and objective are clearly kowtowing to Donald Trump. They know Donald Trump may be watching these hearings, and they're shading their answers in a way that seems designed to please him rather than to sort of give a frank assessment to the American public of what the actual threats are.
Their job's on the line. They know it.
In the first Trump administration, being tough on China and leaning into the China threat was a sort of a signature foreign policy feature of Donald Trump. And that has completely gone away in the second Trump administration. They never talk about it. And certainly the Russia-Ukraine war was relegated to the back of the book of this intelligence assessment and got very little airtime at this hearing, as did some of the FBI issues that have been front and center for a while. One of the luckiest people at this hearing was Kash Patel, because he wasn't really asked about his trip on the FBI jet to the Olympics, which I know some Democrats had planned to ask. But look, there's a war with Iran, and so they had to deal with that. So it would be tough for any member of the public to sort of make sense of the actual threats from watching this hearing, Chris.
Well, you're definitely helping us, and so we thank you for that, you and David both. So, Kevin, I should say Republicans also ask questions about intel, including
I would be like,
exchange about Joe Kent.
That's the first question I'd ask. How are you enjoying your jet there, sir?
Who resigned over
Mr.
the war.
Patel.
What did we learn there?
Right, and of course, we have to remember that just yesterday was when he had made that rather dramatic announcement, which kind of changed the dynamics of these hearings somewhat, suggesting that he could no longer serve in the Trump administration. Keep in mind, he was part of the MAGA movement. He was backed by Trump. He supported Trump. He ran for Congress with Trump's backing. But he said that he did not see there to be an imminent threat that would have warranted going to war with Iran. And so he was, one of the CIA director was pressed on this assessment from Kent. Here's that exchange.
Is there anything to indicate that Iran had ceased in its nuclear ambitions or in its desire to continue to build ballistic missiles capable of threatening American troops and allies in the Middle East?
Senator, no. In fact, the intelligence reflects the contrary.
So you disagree with Mr. Kent?
I do.
Of course, just within the last few moments during one of the last Q&As that we saw here between Senator Ossoff of Georgia, a Democrat, and Tulsi Gabbard, he pressed her repeatedly about this question of an imminent threat. And she said that the intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and continue to grow their nuclear enrichment. When he pressed yet again as to whether that warranted an imminent threat, she replied that the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president. The other thing to kind of keep in mind here, of course, that's hovering over all of this is that Gabbard herself has been warning since her own 2020 election bid about the U.S. going to war with Iran, how that would be a terrible thing. We have seen her, some of our reporting from my colleague Julia Jester suggesting she's been somewhat sidelined as part of the intelligence operation with regards to the White House as the Iran war has picked up.
Yeah, you shut up, Tulsi.
Somehow it got even worse than Justin Fox and his lack of understanding for DEI. Let's move on to Nathan Kavanaugh, because what he was taking part in was even more illegal.
So earlier we talked about some of your communications with Mr. Davis, including, in the context of you emailing yourself, I think you were saying, and then using that email on Signal to send to Mr. Davis. Do you remember talking about that with Mr. Robinson earlier?
I do.
Okay. Walk me through that process exactly.
There was a weekly scorecard, as it was called, where we reported on savings across each agency. It was black text in an Excel spreadsheet file. That was downloaded. Steve preferred that to be sent over Signal. Signal is not on a government device, so we downloaded it and sent it to Steve on Signal. Okay. That was the extent of.
So Mr. Davis was not on a government device?
I don't know if he was on a government device or not. I know he preferred to receive the scorecard on Signal.
Steve Davis, Elon Musk's right-hand man who was put in charge of this whole Doge thing on the ground, even though Elon Musk's name was attached to it above hand. That is before Musk was in, the White House standing next to Donald Trump with his stupid hat on every day and sunglasses dictating what Trump should be doing. What we didn't know is that Steve Davis, who had been working with Musk, I believe when he was a part of taking over Twitter and all these other things, was put in charge. And he was apparently the overseer that told Nathan Kavanaugh, again, I'm going to be your excuse as to reasons why you can later, if we ever get busted, say, I was just following orders. And the orders that he was following had to do with stealing information, uploading it to, again, that Signal chat.
Yeah.
We've heard about that when it comes to the way Pete Hegseth in the military was sharing classified information, again, via a Signal chat. PBS talked about what it is that was going on, though, in better detail than I could tell you.
The Social Security Administration now says members of Elon Musk's Doge team working at the agency last year accessed and shared sensitive data. In a court filing earlier this month, the Trump administration amended what it had previously disclosed, writing that one Doge employee at SSA signed an agreement with an unnamed political advocacy group to analyze voter rolls to, quote, find evidence of voter fraud and to overturn election results in certain states. In another instance, a Doge member shared personally identifiable information of 1,000 people in an encrypted email attachment, though the government says they aren't sure what specifically was shared or whether it was accessed. And SSA also said Doge shared data on third-party cloud servers that are, quote, outside SSA's security protocols, so the agency doesn't know what information was shared or if it still exists on the server.
As they shared all of our personal information to who knows and also to what kind of unsecured locations for anyone else that they didn't even mean to share it with happened, we're just supposed to move on and be like, waste, fraud, and abuse, waste, fraud, and abuse. You notice every time these politicians that were covering for this, talking about waste, fraud, and abuse, every time it was to cover up for these illegal activities. So how much of our Social Security information, personal information, parental information, home information, living information, employee information, everything about you based off of your Social Security number has not been given to these fucking idiots like these guys who have no idea what they're talking about except to say, I was just following orders.
I was just following orders. Something to yourself first before sending it to Mr. Davis?
There was no other way to get the scorecard that we generated to Steve on Signal.
Okay. You can go directly from your government email to Signal?
Correct.
Why not?
I don't think GSA allowed the downloading of Signal, among many other apps.
So GSA didn't allow the downloading of Signal? Is that what you're saying?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. But you then sidestepped that by sending documents to your personal phone so that you could then use Signal?
For the weekly scorecard, that was the process, yes.
And that didn't set any alarms about whether or not you should be using Signal to do government work? The fact that GSA didn't let you use Signal on your phone?
GSA didn't let you use a myriad of softwares that would have been common in a standard business. And so I don't know if Signal is representative of, I don't think Signal is a unique case, frankly. There were dozens of apps that weren't allowed on a government device.
You can tell the Kavanaugh here is trying to avoid answering the question about, which would show
Yeah.
that he knew the reasons why, as he's putting things on his cell phone, then onto Signal, and maybe thumb drives to then access information to some other overlord above him, that he knew it was wrong. He's trying to cover his ass. I mean, that's what people do in depositions. But I want to mention something here with this whistleblower. He was on that same PBS story there, which mentioned all this. And he gave very specific instances of what it is that was accessed, the three main things he was concerned about that was accessed and was shared without any of our knowledge.
I'll be honest, I was pretty disappointed. This
Borges.
is a situation where the public loses. My disclosure essentially outlined three concerns that I had. The first was that DOGE employees had inappropriate access to our data. The second was that they violated a temporary restraining order. And that the third was that they had uploaded sensitive Social Security data to a cloud server without adequate security controls. In all three of those instances, the public's data is at risk. So to have validation of those first two concerns is disappointing, especially in light of the fact that these could have been investigated and uncovered months ago.
And we know the reasons why that didn't happen.
Exactly.
Which I'm also going to get to in better detail. There was a broad general overview that the PBS intro gave there about the things that they were doing. But it got even worse. I dug a little deeper into a breakdown of the Washington Post article that, again, it was referencing the whistleblower that came out last year and nothing was done for the last 6 to 8 months because they don't want anything done behind it, because this is what they were up to. That former employee of Musk's Doge reportedly stole Americans' personal data from the U.S. Social Security Administration and stored it then on a thumb drive. That's according to that whistleblower. The former Doge software engineer told coworkers, this is how he went about it. Now he's trying to cover his ass. I'm not sure if this guy was the one or if it was the Kavanaugh guy we've been talking to, because there was multiple unknown anonymous guys. But still, this former Doge software engineer told coworkers at his new job that he possessed 2 tightly restricted databases of U.S. citizens' information and was planning to use that information at his new company. So not only do you have access to stealing information within our federal government at the behest of Elon Musk and Donald Trump, but then you take it to other private companies that you work at later and brag about it? It continued. That former Doge employee, whom the Washington Post didn't name, worked at the Social Security Administration just last year. In October, he then left to work at a government contractor, where he told colleagues that he had obtained those 2 databases called Numident and the Master Death File. Okay. So these records are more than 500 million living and dead Americans, including Social Security numbers that they may have had, places and dates of birth, citizenship, race and ethnicity, and parents' names. The man also reportedly claimed that he had previously had unrestricted, quote, God-level access to the Social Security Administration's systems. Imagine if one person stole one other person's Social Security information and used it to rack up some credit cards. Think about the type of legal process they'd have to go through to the conviction and go off to jail for that level of fraud. But just because Elon Musk, a billionaire, decided to do it on a grand scale, why is that okay now? Why aren't there law enforcement officials going after his ass today? These depositions were in January. One last part, because maybe we're not pissed off enough yet about what is that they still have access to. It's the latest case of a suspected breach of Americans' personal data linked to Doge and its incursion into the SSA. And in January, those 2 members were suspected of accessing and sharing that information. And the last part of this is that they were off limits to them as part of an effort to aid in an advocacy group that intended to overturn election results in certain states. Is overturning election results that Donald Trump lost, or overturning election results for potential future elections that Donald Trump doesn't want to lose, are
Exactly.
those things part of waste, fraud, and abuse? Maybe every Republican senator and congressman and governor and whoever else came out backing this should answer the question of, what does this have to do with waste, fraud, and abuse? Because I kept hearing them talk about waste, fraud, and
Yeah,
abuse.
same.
And we knew every time they talked about it, it was a talking point that was fed to them so they could continue to keep people quiet, or maybe to let us argue over what's really waste, fraud, and abuse. I'm going to give you one more example of why Nathan Kavanaugh knew what he was doing, and even in this deposition, is still trying to cover his ass.
Do you think that there's a reason that the government disallows using certain services on their devices?
I'm not sure.
Okay. You don't think it was because maybe they were concerned about data leaks or sharing information with people that shouldn't be receiving that information?
Objection. I really don't know.
Okay. You have no idea why they would not allow Signal on government phones?
Objection. Yeah, I'm not sure. I know many government officials use Signal, so I'm not totally sure.
Okay. Do you think maybe it was for the maintenance of records that they don't allow Signal and auto delete app on government phones?
Objection. Yeah, again, I don't know.
You really don't know?
Objection. I really don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I really don't know. I'm not really totally sure. I really don't know. I really don't know. That's the only answers he could give as to the reasons why he might realize or know why Signal Chat, which he uploaded from the information he had access to his phone, then on to Signal. This is in January, like I said, after, if he didn't know, after realizing and discovering the story about the Signal Chat bust that happened with Pete Hegseth in the military. I feel like he may have had an idea as to why Signal wasn't allowed at this point when he's having these depositions.
You think?
I feel like he knew. But again, just like the criminals that support this administration, what they know is that no matter what they do, this criminal administration has their back.
Well, speaking to that timeline, Deborah, the court filing was on January 16. There were a number of corrections to the previous testimony from agency officials. What's your understanding of why it took so long for the government to correct those previous testimonies?
Because the government's not telling us the truth. I still don't think we know the full story. The allegations that Mr. Borges raised are quite serious.
There's probably still a fiber leak.
He
I bet there
raised
is.
them with the federal agency that is responsible, Office of Special Counsel, for investigating his disclosures.
They literally tapped it.
And rather than investigating it,
I've always said that.
kicked it to a different agency. In terms of his retaliation claims, they haven't investigated it at all. So we have a situation, in a very real sense, where the fox is guarding the hen house.
So from the Department of Justice to the FBI to any of the law enforcement that's within this criminal administration, their job is no longer to go after criminals. What their job to do is to protect the criminals, the specific criminals in the White House. That's their job. And I think it was clearly stated there. And it was clearly shown by, a few of those criminals that didn't realize they were going to get caught up in this dragnet. And that Elon Musk and Steve Davis, I believe, is the guy that was in charge. They're hanging out with their money and their yachts and their Mar-a-Lago parties, and they're not concerned about these dum-dums anymore. But they're not going to face any consequences.
No, it's fine.
You kidding me?
No problem.
Today, the Senate resuming its fight over the Save America Act. President Trump's push for voter ID, the debate expected to go through the weekend, if not next week. But will his party be able to secure the votes? GOP Senator James Lankford, a co-sponsor of this bill, joins us now. Good morning to you, Senator.
Good morning.
Good morning. Where does it stand today?
So it came over from the House. We took the House, what they actually passed, the Save America Act. We brought it up with the first motion and actually passed that motion. We had 51 votes to be able to move it. So now it starts the amendment process and all the public debate on it. So it's in a good spot at this point. It has the requirement for voter ID. It has a requirement for proof of citizenship to be able to register. So that's the first step on it. That's what came from the House.
You know, back in '96, Chuck Schumer, he supported this. He said you should have an ID. Why is it the Democrats are changing their minds now, or why are they so against this when the rest of the public, it's at least an 80-20 issue?
It is, and this
No, it
is
isn't.
beyond belief for me. The vast majority of Americans, both Republican, Democrat, Independent, doesn't matter. They see this as common sense. They don't want someone to just walk into a polling place and say, my name is John Smith, and they look up and say, is it the John Smith on Windsor Street? Yes, it is. Okay, then be able to vote. No one wants that on it, and everybody kind of sees the benefit. Everyone also has some kind of ID when they go to the grocery store, when they do all kinds of purchases, all kinds of locations. Quite frankly, every federal building requires an ID when you walk in. So this is a common thing that Americans are used to.
I know some Republicans say this should be a state issue, not a federal issue. But for you in Oklahoma, y'all have to show an ID for everything. Even if you do a mail-in ballot, you have to have it notarized, which means you had to show an ID. You have to prove that you're a citizen. How does the language in this, and I know that it's already passed in the House, the bill, but there are some amendments. How does that affect your state and other states that have similar laws?
Yeah, so our Oklahoma law is very, very strong. We're considered one of the strongest, clearest examples of how to do a fraud-proof election. What we do in Oklahoma, you have to show an ID to vote, you have to show an ID to absentee, in-person vote, and you have to show an ID to do mail-in balloting. That is, you go to a bank, you go to a post office, other places that have a notary, show an ID there, send your ballot in to be able to do it. So what I'm trying to make sure is whatever we do on this bill doesn't make our system weaker. It makes it that at least that level or stronger on it, because we have such a good, secure system in Oklahoma. Let's make sure that we can actually have other states have a system at least that's secure.
Okay, well, we'll be watching. Also, for filibuster, eliminating cloture, all of this. There's a lot on the table, but I do want to get to the second topic with you. Today, Senate confirmation hearings start for Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. And we have this conflict with Iran. 30 days, TSA, Social Security, DHS, FEMA not getting paid, these long lines at the airport. So how dangerous is this for Homeland Security, and how important is getting his confirmation through?
Yeah, it is very, very important not only for this confirmation to get done, to have a leader in Homeland Security sitting there, but also to be able to get this open and funded. We currently have lots of folks, not just that are working with no money, but we have lots of folks that are furloughed on our cybersecurity area, on Coast Guard, on multiple different areas of our national security. We could not have a worse time to have that when there's a conflict going on with Iran right now. So my Democratic colleagues are more afraid of ICE than they are of Iran. Iran is a much bigger threat than ICE to the country, and so we should actually prioritize where the priority needs to be on this, and to say let's actually have our Homeland Security actually funded and our folks paid.
Yeah, I said Social Security. It's Secret Service. I had SS written down on my paper. All right, let me read what Senator Fetterman has written on X. He said, I'm not sure how many fellow Democrats will vote to support our colleague Senator Mullen as the next DHS secretary, but I am an I. So he is in support of this. We've heard a lot about these Iranian sleeper cells, Senator, and after 4 years of these open borders, how worried should Americans be?
What?
Well, we should be concerned about
borders
this.
are closed.
We just pay attention to things. We shouldn't live our lives in fear, but we should pay attention to it. This is one of the areas that I was pushing so hard against the Biden administration on in their open border policy. They allowed in 70,000 what called special interest aliens. These are folks coming in from known areas of terrorism, but they didn't have any information on them specifically.
You
it might have
piece
been
of
their
shit.
family or the community they were in, but so they didn't have anything on them, so they just let them in. President Trump has reversed that. 50,000 of the 70,000 President Trump's team has arrested and has deported and removed those folks. But we still have another 20,000 people just of that high-risk group. Now, there's millions of others the Biden administration let in, but I want to focus first on that high-risk group. The Trump administration has been laser-focused on finding those folks and getting them out. We still have 20,000 of those still left in the country.
It's very scary. Senator, thank you so much for waking up early for us. Wishing you all the best
Glad
today.
to be able to do it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Oh, God.
Let's talk about Joe Kent. He had enough. Sagar and Crystal covered this yesterday. Obviously, one of the highest-ranking intelligence officials in the Trump administration, Joe Kent, resigned with a letter. We're learning more and more. We're getting the postmortems, as Ryan mentioned earlier in the show, about what exactly went on behind the scenes as Joe Kent, who was in charge of counterterrorism work close to Tulsi Gabbard, he posts his resignation letter yesterday, delivers it to the president. Apparently, behind the scenes, J.D. Vance had told him on Monday to just think about it. Just think a little bit about this, because they had a conversation when Joe Kent said he was going to resign. Trump gets asked about this in the Oval Office yesterday. After the news breaks, this is C1.
Your director of national counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you talk
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it.
So in his resignation letter, Kent said he did not believe Iran posed an imminent threat. You may remember Tulsi Gabbard herself testified in Congress, what was that, last April, Ryan, before Midnight Hammer, that Iran was not building nuclear weapons. Tulsi Gabbard is actually set again to testify in front of Senate Intel today around 10 a.m., so we'll be getting more from that. But this is Tulsi Gabbard's statement. We'll put this up on the screen. Donald Trump was overwhelmingly elected by the American people to be our president and commander-in-chief. As our commander-in-chief, he is responsible for determining what is and is not an imminent threat and whether or not to take action he deems necessary to protect the safety and security of our troops, the American people, and our country. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence is responsible for helping coordinate and integrate all intelligence, provide the President and Commander-in-Chief with the best information available to inform his decisions. After carefully reviewing all the information before him, President Trump concluded that the terrorist Islamist regime in Iran posed an imminent threat, and he took action based on that conclusion. So, Ryan, reading between the lines of that, it's not hard to see Tulsi Gabbard is hardly embracing the claim herself that Iran posed an imminent threat. I saw Glenn slamming this as cowardly. I think Sagar did as well. You know, to be honest, I have a totally different take on this, which is basically that I think it's good there are remaining people in the Trump administration who, when these decisions are coming across the transom, they're skeptical. And I would imagine that both Tulsi Gabbard and J.D. Vance were privately skeptical. If it's the case that they were not skeptical, that's a problem. That's significant. If they were sniveling and saying, oh, yes, this intelligence does appear to show an imminent threat, and that's what they were advising Donald Trump because they could tell that's what he wanted behind the scenes, that's terrible. I think it was a brave decision from Joe Kent, too. So I don't know what's happening behind the scenes.
The problem with, on the Tulsi point, though, is there's no evidence that she has any influence in there. So
she's been apparently cut out of briefings.
Right. So if you're, and Kent probably was too, if the argument for staying in is that you're going to sell your soul and like it's debase yourself, but internally you're going to be able to make the argument, that's one thing. But if you're also cut out of the process, like, you know, Sagar probably has more influence in there than Tulsi at this point.
Well, they would replace her with a total stooge at some point. So if I had to, do I think it's a profile in courage? Likely not. I'm not saying that, but I also am not clamoring for some ceremonial resignation, though I think what Joe Kent did in specifically citing his disagreement being over the question of an imminent threat was brave as well. So I'm not coming down hard on either side of it, but I also just don't think it's the worst thing in the world to still have somebody who may be, we have a chance that she's being skeptical behind the scenes. Whoever her replacement would be, I'm sure that's not true at all. Now,
but a second one, the last thing Tulsi has to do to me is, that's the only power she has left, is to make a principled resignation.
Yeah.
Because then you'd have two back-to-back, which would tell the public something more than just the one.
Yeah, and she's testifying in front of Congress today, which by the time this airs, what I said may age
Maybe
poorly.
She's saving it for there, and she's going to just go full worth and resign right there in front of Congress.
But what I just said may age very poorly in the next hour, because she's probably going to go to Congress today and agree that there was an imminent threat in some way or another, even though she didn't in her statement after Joe Kent. So
probably right.
Yeah, it may age poorly in just an hour's
Nobody's
time.
ever lost money betting on Tulsi to cave.
The reports yesterday were coming out of places like Fox News, where people were just citing anonymous administration officials. Did you see this happening all day? Anonymous administration officials were saying that Kent was, quote, a leaker, a known leaker.
They leaked that he was a leaker.
Incredible stuff. And it was getting passed on seriously by people who are otherwise skeptical of the media, but are generally supportive of Trump's war, being like, see, this is Kent had to go. And it's like, maybe apply a little bit of skepticism to anonymous leaks about someone else being a leaker. But that, I saw Fox News had that yesterday. Other news outlets had that yesterday. Just completely ridiculous stuff all around.
Ben Shapiro, not a fan of Joe Kent's resignation letter. Let's roll C3.
Joe Kent quit his job at the National Counterterrorism Center and issued a scathing letter designed to undermine President Trump. The letter is deeply, deeply conspiratorial. It states openly that, quote, Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Now, that is conspiracy trash. It's also kind of strange since President Trump has said that it's conspiracy trash. So apparently, Trump is so deeply, deeply enthralled to those strange, powerful American lobbies. We're not going to say it. That he apparently has been so bamboozled by them that he's still under the impression that he's his own man. But here's the thing. President Trump is his own man. He makes his own decisions. And as per our usual arrangement, Trump's critics are cowards who are simply unwilling to acknowledge that Trump is the one making the call. But Joe Kent continued, quote, early in this administration, high-ranking Israeli officials and influential members of the American media deployed a misinformation campaign that wholly undermined your America First platform and sowed pre-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran. This echo chamber was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to the United States and that should you strike now, there was a clear path to a swift victory. This was a lie and is the same tactic the Israelis used to draw us into the disastrous Iraq war that cost our nation the lives of thousands of our best men and women. Again, the idea here seems to be that President Trump is a moron, misled into war by nefarious Israelis and unnamed influential members of the American media. Don't say it. Again, apparently, President Trump has no agency and no thoughts. Kent's letter is replete with this conspiratorial idiocy, including, as we just saw, the idea that it was Israel that forced the original Iraq war, an idea totally and utterly unsupportable by any evidence, given the fact that the actual prime minister of Israel at the time,
he's trying to say he's being anti-Semitic.
Opposed the Iraq war.
I said he was a principled person, and he says he's anti-Semitic.
We should all be thankful for Joe Kent's long and honorable military service. We can also be glad that he's leaving, since his ideology is the same as that of Tucker Carlson, the guy who says that the war is disgusting and evil and who has been busy sexting with the mullahs. Tucker Carlson calls Kent a personal friend and, quote, the bravest man I know. Frankly, I think that it is a good thing that Kent is not in this position. We cannot have a director of counterterrorism who is somehow advocating preemptive surrender to the world's leading state sponsor.
If he's the director of fucking terrorism?
In that letter,
wow.
Kent also talked about his wife being killed, and let me read exactly from the letter. Quote, in a war manufactured by Israel. And his wife was killed in an ISIS bombing in 2019 in Syria.
Yep.
So Kent really going all the way in.
As he
I would
should.
argue there's there's more evidence to say that Israel fueled the Syrian civil war than there is that they drove us to war in Iraq. We had our own motivations to go to war in Iraq.
It certainly helped.
There were plenty of other reasons that
they certainly helped, though. But he probably knows some shit you don't know, brother.
Israel certainly did, fuel it and benefit from it, and annihilate the Syrian military after al-Shara took over, etc. But it is interesting that he's laying everything on Israel there. Like this is pretty hard. This is pretty maximalist. Take.
Yeah. Well, but then at the same time, to dismiss it as entirely conspiracy trash, it's in basically like the same level of CIA intentionally calling things conspiracy theories when you have the President of the United States, the Secretary of State, the Speaker of the House saying, we struck when we did because of Israel.
Yep.
That is just the plain fact. They said that. They have, of course, fleshed the point out by saying it was the precipitating factor of the when it happened. That was the reason for the exact time. And so, yes, there's nuance to it, but they literally said that. And so to claim that what Kent is building here in the argument is just conspiracy trash, that's completely ridiculous. Now, I've said before, like, I think we should put plenty of the blame on ourselves, because there are a whole lot of people here in the United States, whether because they support Israel or they have other reasons for wanting to take down Iran, They want to take down Iran. They've been wanting to do this for decades. We didn't just do this because of Israel, but it would be the actual conspiracy theory would be to say that
they're fucking
the actions
Zionists.
of Israel had nothing to do with what
You mean
we
Zionists?
attacked.
Yeah, you're talking about
Yeah,
Zionists.
I feel like what's a little bit of what's going on
She's talking
here,
about
you
Zionists.
tell me on the right, is they're new to this kind of anti-war posture, and they're kind of feeling their way around it, and Israel is something that they can hold on to and feel stable in their criticism of the U.S. war efforts, and so it's just kind of simpler to say Israel made us do all of these things rather than looking in Medusa's face and staring it down and saying, "Oh no,
that was Trump."
Yes, they're along for the ride, but they're a client, and the U.S. itself is quite capable of driving all of these, horrific adventures without Israel.
They're
Is Israel
called
gladly on the ride and
excursions.
instigating at times.
Who's this
No doubt about
2-bit
it.
reporter?
But to put
They're
all
called
of
excursions.
the blame over there feels like a way to kind of wash ourselves of some of the responsibility.
Well, I think the anti-war left comes to its position from an a generally anti-imperialist and often, especially the modern left, anti-American, anti-Western perspective, whereas the anti-war right comes at it from a pro-American perspective over and over again, and that's where the people
it's gonna be hard as you learn more.
It's a different square to circle. That's where the people like Ben Shapiro are used to dismissing everybody who's anti-war as anti-American. And so that's how, Tucker Carlson's constantly called an America hater. Or Joe Kent probably, even though he served his country, his wife died for this country, is going to be called an America hater too. People on the anti-war left in the 60s and 70s, who many people were veterans, got used to being called anti-American. In some cases, they would legitimately qualify as anti-American, but from the right, I think that's a good point, Ryan. It's coming at it from different angles, but to
so
just
they're like, I'm not anti-American, I'm anti-Israel.
You have a scapegoat.
Don't blame the king, blame his advisors. Don't blame Trump, blame his advisors.
You have a scapegoat, absolutely. And in some cases, is that genuinely not just a trope, but actually.
That's a good read because I know he's.
Of course it is. I don't think it's.
He specifically said Israel.
Joe Kent, although he's been accused of that plenty of times. He had a big falling.
Israel
out
can't
with
do
Nick
it without
Fuentes.
us.
I think they had a call about whether Fuentes would back him in that congressional race, and
he didn't.
No, and they've Kent is absolutely
Yahoo's our bitch
of Fuentes and has spoken out against that sort of thing, but. He's pretty hardcore and the dissident right, put it that way. So that's an interesting. I think that's probably true, Ryan. That if you are if you're coming to this anti-war position from a pro-American perspective, you're looking for scapegoats.
And none of this is to excuse or say that Israel's advice here or Israel's role here is innocent. It's not to say
no.
It's to say that we might be elevating them beyond what they deserve. Not in this case, though. I think Trump deserves a blame for going along with this, but Israel drove this war. This one, certainly compared to Iraq and Syria, you could say that I think they were a driving force of it.
Yeah. But then you're getting into semantics, and that's the thing where it's this is where the conspiracy theory label is frustrating because it's ultimately labeling a semantic debate a conspiracy theory. It's elevating something that is a question of is Joe Kent literally saying the only reason for this war, it didn't have anything to do with Donald Trump? He's not saying that. He's saying that Israel played a major role in pushing us into this war, and he's using what he would probably argue is persuasive language from his perspective to make the point. But it's not completely when you have the Secretary of State on tape saying what the Secretary of State said, it's not a conspiracy theory at that point to say that they were part of what drove the war. And so maybe what you want is for him to use more careful language. That's the criticism that Ryan just made, and it's entirely fair. But to go and call it a conspiracy theory, that's actually, again, that's the conspiracy theory.
And it's tricky because
she's right.
He's right about this one. And this is the one that we're in right now.
He's right about right.
He's correct about this one.
Yeah.
Anyway, Cuba's electrical grid collapsing as Trump says that he's going to do whatever he wants with it. Stick around for that.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And
All right, if we're going to have a government that engages in pathological lying, and that's their number one form of governing, as well as, just shit tons of propaganda. Here's what I want to say at this point, at this stage in the fascist takeover. Can you at least try to be good liars? Could you at least execute that in a diabolical way where it's like, oh, that's pretty clever. Like, this bitch knows how to lie.
Yeah.
No, they don't do that. Pop this up. This is so embarrassing. So, of course, Caroline Leavitt is a nut and we hate her. So she posts last week about this ABC News story that provided accurate reporting about the Iran war and how the Iranians were holding their own and how their drones were outmatching our, multi-billion-dollar missiles. It's kind of been embarrassing for the United States military. And so she writes at the bottom of this tweet, after she browbeats the press, of course, to be clear, no such threat from Iran to our homeland exists, and it never did. So then their national intelligence director that the Republicans all voted for resigns yesterday, right? And now she comes out with another tweet and says, there are many false claims in this letter, but let me address one specifically, that Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. This is the same false claim that Democrats and some in the liberal media have been repeating over and over. She just repeated it. She just did it a few days ago. Like the guy that quit, I think, what's his name? Pat Ryan? Ken. Okay, whatever. This guy, this MAGA guy quits, okay? He quits and he says Iran posed no threat. Who else said that? Caroline Leavitt. Caroline Leavitt said Iran posed no threat. Other people have said Iran posed no threat. Even the Secretary of State and the Speaker of the House of the United States of America said, well, they didn't pose a threat to us, but Israel said they were going to attack Iran regardless. And then we figured, oh, they'll probably attack American military bases right after, so we might as well just jump in this thing. None of this was ever a threat to the United States of America. But what pisses me off about that is just how verifiable the lies are. And just that it's getting that bad that they literally make up their reality from tweet to tweet to however it suits them. And this fissure of this guy in the MAGA movement, who Trump appointed, who all the Republicans voted for, and now they're saying, oh, he's this big anti-Semite. Do I think somebody in MAGA is an anti-Semite? Probably. Yeah, I do. I think that's where a lot of the anti-Semitism breeds and goes unaddressed, and they're allowed permission structures for it. So now all of a sudden they're all against this guy. Within the last year, it's rah, rah, sis, boom, bah. Every Republican on the planet votes to get him in. Give me a break.
Here's the thing. I look at Caroline Leavitt and I think hypocrisy and irony are lost on her. That's where we are in this fake news. Like, just, if I don't like the news, it's fake. And there's what strikes me is there's not even a question like, did I say something contradictory? Am I being hypocritical? It's just straight up. I was lying then. I'm lying now. It doesn't matter. Facts don't matter as long as I, own the libs or whatever. It's really stunning that the American people buy this shit when it's so verifiable. That's the crazy part to me, is people read this and they'll say, oh no, Iran isn't an imminent threat. And now they'll say, oh yeah, Iran is a threat. It's crazy.
All right. And then moving along, do they have assets in the American government? Do they have a huge lobby for Israel's interests? Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. But we always have to remember that the reason everybody wanted Trump to win is because he's so weak. He's the easiest man on the planet to manipulate. Vladimir Putin, in my opinion, probably has compromise on him. I believe the Israelis have compromise on him because this guy has not lived an up and up life. I mean, this guy's a con artist, a scam artist, a sexual assaulter, an adjudicated rapist, a pathological liar, mentally ill, full-blown dementia. And Rick Wilson chimes in here perfectly, I think. Pop this up. Joe Kent leaving is interesting, but let's be real here. Trump is impulsive. mentally ill and suffering from dementia. It didn't take Israeli masterminds to trick him into a war. And we have to remember that. Now, both of these things are true. I do think Benjamin Netanyahu has been asking American presidents to attack Iran for 40 years. We have it on tape. We have him saying it.
Yeah.
So I traffic in facts, and I have no problem saying that. Also, the people who ran against Donald Trump, whether it be Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, or Kamala Harris, all warned us. This man is so easy to manipulate with superficial flattery, plus all of his double dealings and a sketchy past, put American national security in a very precarious position. So did Israel talk him into going into war? Yes, they've admitted it. Marco Rubio's admitted it. Donald Trump's admitted it.
Yep.
Little Moses Mike Grinder Johnson has admitted it.
They told me to do it. I said,
But
okay,
is
let's
it
go.
hard to do it with this guy? No, it's the easiest fucking thing on the planet. Zoran Mamdani showed up at the White House with 2 newspaper articles and got him to agree to building a bunch of public housing in New York because he flattered him. This is the guy that all of the right's like, oh my God, this guy's a Muslim terrorist commie. And he was able. So, you know, everybody's making all of this, all of these accusations about people who want to repeat facts, and that's dangerous. But a lot of things are true at the same time. Donald Trump is a weak man that lacks morals, lacks respect for human life. And he wants to be flattered at all costs. And I think a lot of these countries,
no morale,
because of the Epstein files and other things in his past, have him doing a lot of shit. I just do. And that's my opinion. But I don't think it's that big of a jump to say that these governments have some pretty compromising, damning information on him.
I agree. And I also think it's telling that he made up that lie about, well, the other president said, I wish I could do it. He thinks in his mind, I'll take Iran and I'll bomb them and then I will be the hero. I think he has these delusions of grandeur that he's going to be the most popular president in the whole world. And I think he thinks that it will catapult him into the best president ever if he takes Iran and does regime change. I just think part of it is the glory. He's seeking the glory too.
I think even if he even gets that far with it, you know, like the guy that I've seen on camera, his brain is cooked. I mean, he just called Gavin Newsom the president of the United States. He was calling Caroline Leavitt, Kellyanne Conway. And
no.
I mean, I appreciate that we're thinking that he's thinking that many steps and projecting
Kellyanne
that far in the
Conway
future.
standing next to me.
For me personally,
oh, sorry, Caroline
I don't know that
Leavitt.
he has that.
Different
one
person.
thing he was before this second term for a long time was anti-war.
That's crazy,
I mean,
chat.
he was. And a lot of people went and voted for him because of that issue. And so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but do I think, to your point, Pumps, that somebody told him, you will be the one president, you're going to do what Obama couldn't do?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think that plays on him. But then, of course, let's talk about how arrogant American foreign policy is under Trump. And it has been before Trump. Okay, listener. But
yeah.
So he comes into office. He's browbeating Canada. He's threatening to take Greenland.
She says, listener,
tariff,
and I say
tariff,
chat.
tariff. I can do whatever I want. All of our allies suck. We have little smoky eye sociopath J.D. Vance talking about how bad the European Union sucks. We have the president's best friend and biggest benefactor, trillionaire Elon Musk, on X browbeating the European Union. We know in the Epstein files, they were celebrating. Peter Thiel and the Epstein elite class were celebrating the success of Brexit. So Europe right now is like, here's the deal. You guys suck. You're not our allies. You seem to be more interested in helping Putin than you do Ukraine.
Yep.
You seem to be more interested in helping a
diabolical,
said,
fuck right off, mate.
Homicidal terrorist
we ain't got no
named
time
Benjamin
for your
Netanyahu
Yankee shit.
Than you do dealing with your own domestic problems. And your president is a nut.
You fucking
He's
Yankees,
a complete
mate.
psychotic dictator nut. We're out.
Letting this pedophile run the country, are you? Isn't it?
It's like, we need help with the Strait of Hormuz, and I demand our allies come help us. Pop this up, Kylie. Kyle Griffin reports Europe has rejected Trump's demand to help him with the Strait of Hormuz. Europe has no interest in an open-ended war. EU top diplomat Kaja Kallas says this is not Europe's war, but Europe's interests are directly at stake. And so some countries have something that's called a memory. And I don't even think it's a long-term memory at this point, because I remember the Iraq War.
Yeah.
And I'm 51. Very vividly in my adult life, how reckless that was. It was all based on lies. 1 million Iraqis dead. Thousands of Americans dead. All of this stuff. For what? For Dick Cheney and Halliburton and the military-industrial complex? Fucking Rumsfeld and Scooter Libby and all these fucking neocon liars. Just complete liars. CIA black sites, war crimes, Abu Ghraib, waterboarding. And Iraq didn't even have anything to do with 9/11. So simultaneously, we have to attack Afghanistan. It's just utterly insane.
I remember it too.
So some countries are actually saying, no, we did this once. We believed you at the UN when you sent Colin Powell, when you trotted him out to talk about yellow cake.
We believed him.
And it was all a lie.
This
and
is
now
yellow
we
cake.
have Benjamin Netanyahu for 40 years lying, for 4 decades lying. Those are facts. He has lied for 40 years that Iran was going to have a nuke.
Yep.
Iran didn't want a nuke. The Ayatollah was so religious, he didn't want a nuke. And so he lied for 40 years. And Europe is like, we're out. All right, listener, I don't know about you, but I like keeping my money where I can see it.
All right, y'all, welcome to the show. I hope everybody out there is having a great day, and we are jam-packed today. So we had elections last night.
Dark Kyle.
They didn't go great. They didn't go, like, horrific, but they definitely didn't go great.
Right,
we have Kat Abu-Ghazaleh lost. She lost to a guy by the name of Daniel Biss. Now, the positive news is
3 points.
The AIPAC candidate, Laura Fine, they spent like $9 million trying to get her elected, and she finished third behind both Kat and Daniel Biss. But, of course, what people are pointing out this morning is that you had other lefty candidates who insisted on staying in and, you know, in theory, taking more votes from Kat. And if you do the math on it, if those people's voters voted for Kat instead of them, Kat could have won. So you got a lot of people this morning, like, Humanist Report, Mike Figueredo, he's out there going, look, if we're on the left, we got to be more strategic about this shit.
He's right.
AIPAC's evolving. AIPAC is changing in the sense that they're finding sneakier, more clever ways of giving money to their preferred
Injecting
candidates.
money,
They're not
yep.
mentioning Israel anymore. So, like, they're upping their game. We got to up our game, and we got to be more strategic about this shit. So we have Daniel Biss, who's not worst case scenario, but he's not best case scenario either. He ended up winning. We have probably the worst race was this woman, Melissa Bean. She won. She's the bad candidate because she was formerly a blue dog. She took a shitload of AIPAC money. But the silver lining there is that lefty candidate who came close had literally like zero backing. Like there was no backing, huge money disadvantage, and they still almost won. So perhaps there should have been, more of an effort to get that lefty candidate elected, but they thought the district was too tough anyway. And then we have Juliana Stratton, who won. Now, she's a great example of progressive on everything but Palestine, because she said, like, abolish ICE, for example. She seems to be pretty solid on everything except Israel, where I think she was taking some AIPAC money. So,
Oopsie.
Of course, not the best case scenario there either. Now, her opponent, Krishnamurthy, was better on the issue of Palestine, but worse on the issue of ICE and some other things. So it's sort of like a complex one there that we're talking about. But certainly not a great night, but not the worst night possible. But I agree with Mike Figueredo that we got to sort of up our game as lefties, and we have to think more strategically, and we have to be aware of the way in which AIPAC is now basically trying to trick people into supporting their candidates by not mentioning Israel at all. You even had AIPAC funnel money to left-wing pro-Palestine candidates down the stretch because they were trying to take more votes away from Kat Abu-Ghazaleh. So Lessons to be learned for sure. But we also have so much stuff to get to, man. I mean,
that's clever.
This world is falling apart. I'm not kidding when I say that. I mean, I have nightmare, catastrophic, apocalyptic updates for you about what's going on with this war.
Yeah, it's fucked.
Almost worst case scenario. I think nukes are worst case scenario. This is just literally like one step below
boots
nukes.
on the ground.
So we'll get to that as well. And I'm playing catch up with Trump's comments, and I might crash the fuck out in this first segment here. So you guys know the drill, man. Everybody do me a big favor. Subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon. You can also support the show on Patreon. That helps a lot because we're real independent media. I've never talked to an advertiser ever. I've never done an ad read ever.
Out, so
I'm very proud
do.
of that. So you guys support the show $2 a month at a time, $5 a month
I
at
crash
a time. You
out.
can support below or tip with that thanks button on YouTube, or support Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack and sign up for the exclusive interviews. That link is below as well. And go subscribe to Corin's World so you can see the live Kyle and Corin episodes, which drop every single Monday night. We do them live. So with all that being said, let's get into it. So Trump came out. Guys, let's be serious here. Not only is he physically rotting away in front of us, he is mentally rotting away as well.
Yes, sir.
And when I tell you that this guy is shattering every single world record when it comes to hypocrisy and contradictions and incoherence, I mean it. Okay, so Sam Stein points this one out. Trump just posted this. On the issue of the Strait of Hormuz, Trump has gone from we don't need help to we need help to why aren't folks helping to help is on the way to I'm not telling you who is helping to help's not actually on the way, but we don't need it anyway to we may just abandon it and leave it to everyone else. So his most recent thing he said is, I wonder what would happen if we finished off what's left of the Iranian terror state and let the countries that use it, we don't, be responsible for the so-called strait. That would get some of our non-responsive allies in gear and fast. So here he is yet again chastising and berating our allies who are getting crushed by this, as he already gave them the middle finger by launching a trade war against them. I'm telling you, it's going to be in my lifetime for sure, probably yours as well, depending on your age, that the U.S. is going to no longer have the world reserve currency anymore. It's only a matter of time because everybody
our
fucking
own
hates
self
us.
in the ass.
They despise us, and this is the exact reason why. Okay, so now we have another example. This again during a press conference,
running around the world, sticking our dick in the cracks where we shouldn't.
On the issue of the Strait of Hormuz, saying we want the help, we don't want the help, we got to figure it out, we don't got to figure it out. Back forth, back forth, back forth. Watch this.
If we ever needed help, they won't be there for us. I've just known that for a long period of time. We have some that are really enthusiastic. They're coming already. This is a need. Need would be one of the big boys. If we need their mine boats, or if we need anything, any piece of apparatus that they may have because of a situation that they have, they should be jumping to help us. We want them to come and help us with the strait. My attitude is, we don't need anybody.
What?
Oh man, I can't. This is like, how is this man president? How is nobody like pointing this out and talking about it? How is impeachment not like
less
front and center on everybody's mind
20 minutes
every
apart?
single day? Like I will never, ever get over that fact that like somehow, you know, all the Democrats are MIA. Republicans are fucking hopeless. I mean, if Trump was a fucking corpse, they would say, "Sir, you're brilliant. You're in tip-top shape. You're in your prime."
Yes.
But the Democrats are still running and hiding in the corner in the cuck chair and acting like this is all normal and like, oh, let them hang themselves. There might not be a country to come back to if you just let them continue to run wild.
We're the strongest nation in the world. We have the strongest military by far in the world. We don't need them.
We need them. We don't need them. We want them. We don't want them. Like, oh my God, bro. Oh my God. I'm going to crash out. And we're literally only on like the first clip here. All right. Now let's get to this one. Here's where Trump is just blabbering, and he gives away something that apparently they were trying to keep secret.
Oh, yeah.
There's a Republican with a terminal diagnosis because, you know, this gets out there and it becomes very clear. Oh, shit. Like, they're going to lose their majority. There's been a bunch of people who stepped down. There's been a bunch of people who, like, are out this bitch. And now they let you know, like, oh, by the way, just hang in there for like 5 more minutes because somebody's going to die. like, watch this entire time as you listen to this, watch the body language and how Mike Johnson sounds as Trump casually brings this shit up.
We had one man who was very ill. It looked like he wasn't going to make it. I don't know. I won't mention his name. Should I? Do other people know his name? Do you want to mention it? He'll be proud. Go ahead. Tell him the story.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. President. Congressman Neil Dunn of Florida had some real health challenges, and it was very serious, and had a pretty grim diagnosis. And I mentioned it to the president, and I said, Congressman Dunn is a real champion and a patriot because he's still coming to work. And if others got this diagnosis, they would be apt to go home and retire. And
what was the diagnosis?
It was, I think it was a terminal diagnosis.
He would be dead by June.
Okay, that wasn't public, but yeah, okay, that's it was grim.
Oh my goodness, this man. Now, by the way, we actually on this one should be thanking him because the Republicans were clearly nefarious in trying to hide this from the public. I think you have a right to know if your congresspeople are about to die in 7 seconds.
I agree.
Don't you? So, like, on this one, it was good, but classic Trump. He's just, like, blurting the shit out, and they were trying to keep this shit secret. All right, but we're still not done yet. Now let's move on to this one. This was on St. Patrick's Day. Trump is going to be asked if, hey, what about boots on the ground in Iran? What do you think of that? And his answer should terrify you.
The Iranian regime has told Sky News, if you put boots on the ground in Iran, it will be another Vietnam. Are you afraid of that?
No, I'm not afraid of. I'm really not afraid of anything.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Now remember, this is the guy who got how many deferments from Vietnam because of fucking bone spurs? He obviously was terrified of war, but when it comes to sending your kids to war, he's like, I don't care about that at all.
Not
you
afraid.
guys can go die. You guys can go get shoved in the meat grinder for Israel. I don't care. I don't care at all.
It's good for them.
Then we also have this one. Here he is talking about Venezuela. His brain is so cooked. His body is straight up barbecue chicken at this point. He can't even remember who the fucking president of Venezuela is that, by the way, he illegally installed. Here we go.
Literally millions of barrels of oil are being taken out, and it's been a great help, and it's been to their great benefit. The president has done a really good job. We get along with him really well. But we've taken out millions of barrels of oil and brought to Houston and other places to the refineries. We have refineries set up.
So we referred to the president of Venezuela as he. We get along with him very well. The leader now is Delcy Rodriguez. You literally installed her. According to you guys, that's what happened. You cut a deal with Delcy Rodriguez. She sold out Maduro.
He thinks it's a dude.
That's what happened. And also notice
Delcy is a dude.
He's casually discussing international crimes that he committed because they're stealing the Venezuelan oil, they're selling it on the market, and then they're putting the money, hundreds of millions of dollars, in a private bank account that only Trump controls in Qatar.
Yeah, he's talking about his crimes.
I mean, you want to talk about mobocracy. You want to talk about gangster government. I've never seen anything this corrupt. And this is what I mean when I said I knew Trump was going to be horrific and I was sounding the alarm before the election. But it's worse than any of us could have thought. Why? Because they're so creative when it comes to their criminality. Like, who could have
I told you, it's Gangster Don.
Abducting the leader of Venezuela, stealing the oil, selling it on the global market, and then putting hundreds of millions of dollars in a personal bank account that only he controls. Nobody could have seen that. Nobody could have seen I'm going to sue my own government for $10 billion and then settle with them and get $1 billion from U.S. taxpayers, right? Or create the Board of Peace, which makes me emperor of the world somehow, and also try to get another $10 billion from U.S. taxpayers that goes directly to me. This is the shit they're doing. This is the shit. Or stealing Greenland. He didn't say dick about Greenland on the campaign trail. The second he gets in there, he's like, we're going to take Greenland. That's what we're going to do. Oh my God, bro. Oh my God, bro. All right, let's keep going. So here we have Trump flat out lying about nobody saw this coming. The way Iran has responded, nobody saw this coming.
Yeah,
we had
right.
No idea it was going to be like this. And that is just,
I've been yelling
to say
about
that's
this.
wrong is the
Yesterday,
understatement
I
of
was
the century.
talking about this.
Literally anybody who knew anything and did the war games on this and tried to figure it out, try to read into the future, look at the chessboard, right? Would have told you, of course this was a
My
possibility.
dumbass
If not
would have told you
likely.
that.
All right, here we go. Listen.
Thank you. You were talking about Iran a couple times today and what they did after Epic Fury began. You said they hit Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait. Nobody expected that. We were shocked. Are you surprised that nobody briefed you ahead of time that might be their retaliation?
Nobody. No. The greatest experts. Nobody thought they were going to hit. They were. I wouldn't say friendly countries. They were neutral. They lived with them for years. Peter, they were going to take over the Middle East. They were going to knock out Israel with their nuclear weapon.
Total projection. It's literally Israel right this second that is taking over the Middle East. And he keeps saying this about Iran. It is an insult to your intelligence.
But after we knocked out their nuclear potential weapon, they started building missiles, thousands and thousands of missiles. And they were going to do it with missiles while they developed. These are sick people.
Literally, that was for defense from Israel and the U.S. That's why they had all those missiles. That's why they have all those drones. And you proved that they needed them by continuing to attack them.
While they developed nuclear, somehow they were going to start at a different site because that site was, you saw the site, the mountain. They were going to go into a certain area, which we know exactly where it is. And they were going to do that. And it's incredible what we've done. I tell you, the job we've done.
Unbelievable. Okay, so as you can see here, community note, Why Iran Will Escalate by Nate Swanson, a longtime Iran policy advisor and analyst, was published in Foreign Affairs on February 24, 2026, 4 days before the conflict began, and warned that U.S. strikes on Iran could trigger escalation and retaliation. Literally every single expert that I've seen talk about this immediately goes, well, they could close the Strait of Hormuz. That's the first thing that people bring up. is you attack them, they have the ability to close the Strait of Hormuz. Literally thing number one. That's why I keep telling you guys.
It's been told the presidents
saying,
before.
We're playing checkers, they're playing chess. No, it's not even that. I wish we were at least playing checkers. We're playing motherfucking roll your feces up into a ball in the corner and eat it.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. Trump's eating crayons in the corner as fucking they're playing chess. That's what's happening right
Literally.
now. I can't believe he had the nerve to say this out loud. Nobody knew they were going to do that. Yes, of course people did. Are you kidding me? Ask me. I'm just a guy who has like followed this stuff.
Yeah, literally.
Since 2012
Same guy.
full time, and I
Same.
could have told you that the step
Same.
number one is close the Strait of Hormuz if they're actually
Same.
under threat, and it actually looks like you're trying to do regime change. All right. Then he has another fucking Alzheimer's moment here where he crashes out hard. Listen to this disgusting moment. Okay, I don't know how well you could hear that because you get the plane noise in the background. But what happened is Trump said, on being asked to explain 5,000 Marines, ground troops being sent to Iran, he said, "Hush. Did you not see my Truth Social post? Careful, obnoxious lady. That is one strike towards a treason charge. Don't even look at me with those glaring eyes. Tom, go ahead." Like, what do you even say? This is right up there with the quiet piggy shit. Remember that? And let's remember,
shit.
This is what happens when you're in the early stages of Alzheimer's. You have this thing called behavioral disinhibition. You are incapable of filtering.
He's correct.
Now, he's always been a bit of a loose cannon, but this is above and beyond even for him, bro. This is
True.
above and beyond even for him. And so you got to ask yourself, what are those injections going into his hand? Well, as we've all seen, his hand is bruised, and he's getting these bruises basically in the same intervals that it would be if he was taking Leqembi, a drug for early Alzheimer's, which, by the way, his dad suffered with too, which ups his chances of having it as well. Here's Trump lying and saying nuclear war would have happened if he didn't wage this illegal and offensive war on Iran.
And they would have had it if we didn't bomb them out from the great raid with the B-2 bombers 8 months ago or so. You would have had a nuclear war in the Middle East and maybe beyond. I think it would have hit Europe. Maybe not Ireland, but it would have hit Europe. I think you would have been a nice piece of it. It all gets you. It's big enough that you would have been affected. They would have hit Europe eventually.
The shamelessness of the lies makes like Bush blush, makes Dick Cheney blush, makes Bill Clinton blush. I did not have sexual relations with that woman is positively factual and empirical and accurate compared to what this man is saying right here. As the U.S. and Israel, the axis of Epstein, as we keep marauding and crusading and starting wars seemingly every other week, he's like, Iran was going to nuke us if we didn't do anything, which is, of course, the exact opposite of the truth. As we start everything, they go, look at these warmongers over here starting all these wars. God, I literally don't have the ability to fully get across to you just how much I despise this man with every fiber of my being. Now, here he is. As you listen to this one, I want you to imagine what the reaction would be if you flipped the political parties. If this was a Democratic president talking about Republicans. Watch this. Here we go.
Yeah, they have to give it to him intravenously, so that would make sense. That's why he has the bruise on his hand. True. Good call, Kyle. Jesus Christ, that's a good fix. It's for early Alzheimer's. Has side effects as like dizziness, swelling of the brain, etc.
Democrats are terrible. You know, it'd be nice to get along, but for years this has been going on. Not just with me. For years it's been going on. Different ideology, but also different tactics. Here we are. We're fighting big battles with a very tough enemy and winning nicely. And we're not allowed to have security in our country. It's crazy. The Democrats don't want to pay. These are bad people. These are not people that love our country, I can tell you that. Very sick people. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
The Democrats are terrible. They don't love our country. These are sick people. These are terrible people. Imagine it was Barack Obama. Imagine it was Joe Biden going, these Republicans, they're horrible people. They're terrible people. They're like totally hopeless. They're totally useless. Like they're the problem with this country. They're evil. Imagine what the reaction would, you would never hear the fucking end of it. Hillary said something factually true that at least half of Republicans are irredeemable deplorables, right? And that you never heard the end of that. Here's Trump saying every single Democrat is the problem.
They're all deplorable.
I can't. And this is as he like launches us into World War III, by the way. Now, this one is getting a lot of play out there. So here's Trump. He's going to talk about Gavin Newsom. And this
news scum
so
to
many
you,
people. I had family members reach out to me to say, this was fucking disgusting. Listen to this.
Newsom has admitted that he has learning disabilities. Honestly, I'm all for people with learning disabilities, but not for my president. I think a president should not have learning disabilities, okay? And I know it's highly controversial to say such a horrible thing. The president of the United States, Gavin Newsom, admitted that he has learning disabilities, dyslexia, everything about him is dumb.
That is fucking incredible. And by the way, yes, he also called Newsom the president of the United States. So ironic, as he's saying, like, these people, they're stupid, they're dumb. The president of the United States, Gavin Newsom. Wait, who's stupid? Who's dumb? Because
he was thinking about him being president.
And you're saying, like, you got to have a good brain in order to be president. You got to have no learning disabilities. Which, by the way, like, really? Dyslexia? I mean, if you want to talk about things that should make it so you can't be president, I don't know. How about being charged with 91 crimes and being a 34-time convicted felon?
Yeah, how about that?
Being caught doing
rather than dyslexia,
insurance fraud and business
can't have a dumb guy with dyslexia. What?
And your family robbing from a children's cancer charity. I mean, you want to talk about things that should make it so you shouldn't be anywhere near power. Wouldn't you start with that over dyslexia? Dyslexia is very common, right? Like, that's not that big a deal. Like, you work through it and then everything is fine. Like, this to set for this guy, this fucking idiot, to go after others like, they're not great at learning. Motherfucker, you look like you stopped learning in fucking 6th grade, bro.
Yep.
I mean, I would pick a random 12-year-old to run the country, and I think they would do a better job than you would. They wouldn't have us in fucking World War III, right? They wouldn't have us in this horrific position where we got torture and rape going on at concentration camps that we send innocent people to. They wouldn't be using the presidency as one massive grift, which is what these people do.
Forgot what those were.
So, I mean, it's just, he's such a fucking loathsome cretin, this man. He's such a vile, wretched, repulsive loser. And the unearned arrogance and confidence, like, well, obviously, I don't have learning disabilities. Like, you are the dumbest person who's ever graced the White House, motherfucker.
Now your brain is cooked.
Okay? You have got to be kidding me with this shit. My God, bro. All right. Then he gets to Cuba. And on this one, man, he lets the criminality hang out. Oh, dinky. Watch.
I think Cuba, in its own way, for tourism and everything else, it's a beautiful island. Great weather. They're not in a hurricane zone, which is nice for a change,
They're not in a hurricane zone?
What?
How dumb is this man?
What a dumbass.
Tell me again about how learning disabilities should make it so you can't be president.
Yeah.
They won't be
famously never been a Cuban hurricane.
But I think Cuba's the end. All my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba.
Listen to the language. When I tell you the Republican Party is a fascist, terrorist, imperialist death cult.
Exactly.
I mean it.
Yep.
Look at how casually he's describing stealing
he thinks he's among peers
where millions of people live. These are independent, sovereign people with their own history, with their own system, with their own beliefs and hopes and dreams. And here he is saying, I'm going to take it.
Year of our Lord 2026.
Oh, you're going to take it? Like, motherfucker, what do you think? You're a child playing with Hot Wheels, bitch?
Yep.
What are you playing with, a G.I. Joe? Like, are you kidding me?
I have the honor of taking Cuba.
Democrats, please, for the love of God, why are you not screaming about impeachment and removing him and arresting him?
Immediately. What are we going to do?
This has gone so far beyond what's acceptable. Like, how are we not all saying the same thing right now?
Taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it.
Do anything I want with it. He's a fucking gangster.
God, bro. Oh my God, bro. Listen, let me just say this right now. I apologize to the rest of the world for what this man has done. I'm an American.
No shit.
All I've known is this country. I've only been out of this country, one time in my life, and I'm 38 years old. I'm not very well traveled, okay? I apologize. Because when I tell you this guy does not represent what every reasonable American thinks and feels and believes, I mean it. Okay. Yes, he's got his little terrorist death cult of 35% of the country, and they are irredeemable deplorables. Hillary Clinton was totally right when she said that, and they should be nowhere near power. We need fucking demagnification. Honestly, I would be totally cool with a national divorce to try to separate from these people as much as humanly possible. But I want the rest of the world to know
put them through,
I fucking condemn this
camps.
unequivocally. And the damage that we're doing to the world is basically, at this point, like
no, it's re-education
irreparable.
camps.
And there's nothing I could say that could fix it, but like, we're with you. I need you to know that we're with you. We look at this, and this makes me want to fucking shove an ice pick in my eyeball.
Taking Cuba, I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth?
By the way, logic of a rapist, right? Now, everything you've heard about Trump and Epstein is factually true. Logic of I can do whatever I want with it.
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want with it. You can do whatever you want with it with a sovereign, independent country? Of
course you can.
I can do whatever I want with
I'll
it.
rape it.
That's what he says when he walked into the room with 13-year-old girls
care.
around.
A very weakened nation right now. They were for a long time. Very violent leaders.
The man who can't go a week without starting a new war.
Yeah, violent
The man
leaders.
who can't go a week without starting the new war.
Famously,
begrudging
Castro.
and bemoaning the violence
Super
of
violent.
others. By the way, the reason why it's nearing collapse is because of Trump. He's doing a medieval-style siege, not allowing in any oil to Cuba. The other day, the electric grid totally collapsed. They got it back online. I don't know how it's doing at this exact moment, but like that's what he's referring to.
Get on a flotilla.
I, Donald J. Trump, am gonna starve the country into submission, and then they'll allow me to do whatever I want with it. And this is all for the Epstein class. It's all for U.S. corporations. It's all for the Epstein class. It's all for making Cuba a playground of the 1%, right? Because guess what? That was like Dubai and Qatar. Not anymore, son. They're under constant Iranian missile threat.
True.
So where's the 1% going to go? They're going to go and use Cuba as their fucking brothel and their
He's
casino.
right.
Duh. That's what they're going to do, right? God, the Epstein class needs to be launched into the sun. We need to take these motherfuckers down. There should be
He's
no
right.
billionaires. The billionaires are the cause
Thank
of all
you,
the problems.
Kyle.
Trump, at the
Finally.
same time,
Oh
we
my
have
God,
the
I'm
war
so
going
happy
on,
to
which
hear
is
other people
destroying
saying
the
this
oil
now.
markets, of course.
Holy shit,
Trump
dude.
rants on St. Patrick's Day in the White House and says this.
Windmills, which don't work, they're tremendously expensive. And the best testament to that is the windmills are made in China, but China doesn't use them.
He always says this, that like, China doesn't do any green energy. They do more than us by a mile. I think they do the most in the world, and they grow it
what does he
on a
mean?
yearly basis. So just factually wrong. He just says shit. He just like diarrhea shits out the least true things you've ever heard.
They're building 58 coal-fired plants right now, and that's up to them. But these foolish countries that are buying windmills, putting them out of business, I'm proudly telling you that we're going to try and have no windmills built in the United States during my...
Okay, so stop and think about this. During an oil and gas crisis brought about because of his stupidity and warmongering, any president with a functioning brain at that point would say, oh, okay, well, how do we try to make up for this? I know, let's double down on green technology and renewable technology. People who have fucking electric cars right now are doing cartwheels because they don't have to deal with what's going to be...
Meantime, me, dumbass streamer, with a simple Google search, pulls up, China's growth in wind power stays parabolic. Parabolic. It's literally going straight up compared to the USA.
$4, $5 a gallon gasoline, okay? They're not going to be squeezed as much. And instead of doing that, at the same time, he's destroying the oil and gas market. He's going, we're going to do no green energy, fuck renewable technology. Like, this is why I keep telling you, either he is a Manchurian candidate or he's so stupid that he functionally acts like one. But what's the fucking difference? What's the difference? This is what you would say and do if you were actively trying to destroy the United States of America. I need you to understand that, okay? We also have this one. Donald J. Trump posted, Strait of America. That's great. That's great. I'm sure that that's helping the situation. As pathetic as it gets, our failing, humiliated, abandoned commander-in-chief last night took to his little website to post 3 different MAGA media stories about a crowd in Miami cheering him 2 months ago at the college football championship. So as World War III is unfolding around us, as the economy is in fucking... is shattered into a million different pieces, he's out there posting, watch, crowd goes wild.
Okay, wait, I have actual facts here. China in 2024, these are numbers. Wind is 997 terawatts. Solar is 800 terawatts. 839 terawatts. Hydropower is 1,354 terawatts.
for Trump during national anthem at the college championship in Miami, Florida.
Cole.
Watch Trump cheer during national anthem at college football national championship game.
5,827
terawatts reaction at CFP title game in Miami. Guys, this man is losing
God,
it.
their hydro is
Did you
insane.
know there was reporting on this that just came out the other day? After Trump decided to launch the illegal and offensive war against Iran, he then called Laura Loomer to bask in her praise. Like, he called her so she would say, "Mr. President, you're so amazing. What a great, smart, strong decision you are. Who's a big boy? You're a big boy." He's like, "Thank you, Laura. Say that again. Say the part where I'm a big boy." Like, that's what that's what he did. Oh, my God. And then finally, I want to give you this. Now, this one, it might appear on the surface like it's nothing. But wait for the explanation, because this says everything, okay? Listen to what Trump said about his approach to oil and gas for his presidency. Okay, listen.
You mentioned the significant amount of oil that China derives from the Middle East. What is the status of your conversation with President Xi in terms of getting China to cooperate, in terms of making the Strait of Hormuz safe for those oil tankers?
Yeah, so China is a great example. They get 91% of
454 gigawatts.
Straits, which we protected for years.
454 gigawatts of wind in America. It's hardly anything compared to China.
And it always bothered me that we have these countries. Japan
Terawatt
gets
is bigger than a
95% of its
gigawatt.
from the Straits, the Hormuz Straits. And it always bothered me that we're protecting and we don't need them. We didn't need them before we started dig we must. Dig me must. That's the Trump policy of lots of oil.
He says, "Dig we must" is the Trump policy of lots of oil. Now, shout out to Jim Stewartson. I wouldn't have caught this if he didn't realize this, because this is before my time, okay? But Jim Stewartson says, "Yeah, this is pretty stark stuff. The behavioral issues in dementia, like disinhibition, come early. When you can't remember your slogan from the last 10 years, which is drill, baby, drill, and replace it with a Con Edison slogan from the 50s to 70s, you're losing brain cells in chunks." So,
Actually true.
Is literally from the
Holy
1950s to the 1970s.
shit.
It was Con Edison, which is the New York energy company, and Trump's brain is functioning on such a poor level right now that
he's back in his child brain.
He replaces drill, baby, drill with dig we must. That is a classic hallmark of a failing brain, of dementia. Bro, I'm telling you, I am crashing out. This country is cooked. This country is barbecue chicken. If you don't impeach him, if you don't remove him, if you don't arrest him, it's over. I'm not sure we get out of this fucking term in one piece, right? I am not sure we get out of this term. Like I keep telling you, you think he's not talking about using nukes in Iran? You think that hasn't crossed his mind? We had reporting from his first term that he floated nuking a hurricane, thinking it would stop the hurricane dead in its tracks.
Yeah.
A guy who's dumb enough to float that, a guy who's dumb enough to float a multi-thousand-mile moat at the southern border filled with alligators and snakes, fucking 12-year-old boy brain, right? Probably even younger than that. You think that guy's not talking about, maybe we should nuke him? Why not? Why don't we nuke him? If I nuke him, I can just say I won. So fucking prepare yourselves, man, and wait until I get to the next segment where I get to the various escalation that has happened in this insane war. Oh my God. I'm not kidding when I say we're a fucking pube hair's length away from nuclear annihilation. Get this guy the fuck out of there.
Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe.
Please.
It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen.
All right, the triple Trumpers are going through some things, specifically the working class triple Trumpers that came out in full force that have been left over and looked over by both parties for decades. And they voted for this guy because they felt like, oh, he can't be bought. He's rich. And he's a businessman. And so he'll know how to run the government. And so let's do a little check-in on how things are going with the triple Trumpers. Play the clip.
Let's take a listen to one more woman who we spoke with. If you could say something to President Trump and he was going to hear you right now, what would it be?
You are a worthless pile of
And you voted for him how many times?
3 times. That was my bad. Apparently, I'm an idiot.
Damn.
Why, yes.
Wow.
Why, yes, you are an idiot.
Wow.
You are. You absolutely are an idiot. But here's what will happen to the woman like that. I don't want the Democrats to start thinking, oh my God, they're all jumping off the Trump train. They will jump right back on it again. It is like a blood is thicker than water type thing with these people. They will break your heart 15 times out of 10. These people that triple trumped will always run back to that.
We're going a different route. I don't want to listen to them again. That's right. It's the 5.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Perino, along with Kennedy, Harold Ford
this new?
Jr., Lawrence Jones, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is the 5.
2 hours ago. Yeah, this is brand new. Brand new, folks.
Fox News alert here. Brand new video from CENTCOM.
She said brand new, too.
Forces neutralizing threats posed by the
Okay,
Iranian
stop.
regime. This, as Epic Fury had its day on Capitol Hill with America's intel bosses answering for it. DNI Tulsi Gabbard, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and the FBI's Kash Patel facing off with lawmakers over the intelligence behind the operation. It got a little testy with the Democrats. Watch.
Did you brief the president if he starts a war of choice that the likely result would be that Iran would strike adjacent Gulf nations and close the Strait of Hormuz?
Yes.
I have not and won't divulge internal conversations.
I can't get a word in edgewise. He won't answer the question, and then he's taking a minute of my time.
You're both big boys. You can handle it yourself.
Did he know this was going to happen, or did he just disregard it?
Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the president.
Some other big Epic Fury developments. Israel killed yet another top Iranian leader. This time it was the regime's intel chief. And remember the bunker busters? Well, the U.S. military just unleashed multiple 5,000-pound deep penetrator bombs on Iranian missile sites all along the Strait of Hormuz. And speaking of that very important shipping lane, President Trump is posing a hypothetical to NATO allies, posting on Truth Social. I wonder what would happen if we finish off what's left of the Iranian terror state and let the countries that use it, we don't, be responsible for the so-called strait. What would get some of our non-responsive allies in
Strait of America
fast? So a lot of things moved forward on this today. Let me just turn over to you, Kennedy. I'm not sure where you want to land. I'll turn it over.
Well, thank you very much.
Wherever
I will try and Mary Lou Retton this. I think it's good to see our intelligence apparatus grilled on Capitol Hill. It was very interesting because they did take some incoming from both parties, and there is a little bit of a fracture within the Republican Party. There are people who are very supportive of the president, and politically, we've talked about it on this show. They're worried about the midterm ramifications of a war that won't wrap up, and it's also the kind of thing. And everyone who has studied Iran knows this. If you're going to start an incursion there, you're going to have to finish it, because otherwise Iran will do what the Taliban did.
Oh, everyone knows that, but they don't know that.
In order to ascend to power once again.
Taliban.
Right now, the Iranian regime is in what is called
run by the Taliban
regime, which is just essentially the remnants of the hardliners. They are hanging on fast and furious, but they have seen this coming, and for them, it's not life and death in this world. It's the next one. And if they're going to kill tens of thousands of their own people, you better believe they're going to fight like hell to stay and hold on to power as long as possible.
Well, she's right about that.
My worry is how long is as long as possible, and what will it take for this president to finish what they have decided to start.
Harold, the NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte, who has a good relationship with President Trump, I think we could say, he said that they're starting to have these discussions about NATO helping out, at least because, as President Trump said, like it's not really where we use all of our shipping to go through.
They're dummies.
They do, and of course, as Caroline Levitt said this morning, we want the world to do well, and we need some help here. Are they going to come in?
Well, we should, first, it's good to be with everybody. We should be honest. One of the reasons that we want their help is that we need their help. I think the president, when he goes off on these tangents at times and says, we can do this all by ourselves, we need no one, we're the United States, we're the most powerful country in the world. We are indeed the United States. We are indeed the most powerful country in the world. And we have the most important and powerful military in the world. But we need their help. Why? Because the oil market is a global market. We've essentially taken 10 million barrels of oil a day.
He's arguing for his point.
Markets. We use 100 million as a world. We use 20 million of it a day, and the Chinese use between 10 and 12 million. So as much as we say that they use it and we don't use it, it's really a fiction. We are using it because we all take from this global market. Two, I was pleased to see the Democrats stand give the military the credit. I've been at many of us around the table, and I include myself, and it's saying this is not the time. Joy was on a few days ago, Joy Jones saying, and I agree with him, this is not the time to not be funding our military, to not be supportive of our military in every which way, which is one of the reasons I think you have to open the Department of Homeland Security as quickly as you can, and whatever blame comes from our party's way or the Republicans' way, let it fall. But that agency needs to be open.
You, Harold.
I thought the oversight questions asked by some of the committee members, particularly the Democrats, and I didn't see all the Republicans. I assume they asked some of these questions as well. And if you listen to Kennedy's answer, which you have to believe that there are some Republicans who have questions about this.
Dude,
the first
shut
is,
the fuck up.
how imminent was the threat? We probably
there was
should
none.
ask that maybe a little bit later. But
there
I do
was
think
none.
That question is a legitimate question, considering that Ms. Gabbard evidently omitted some of this from her remarks because she said she was rushing through her testimony. Two, do you believe, and I didn't hear Mr. Ratcliffe answer, do you believe we're going to have to put ground troops on the ground to recover the uranium if we get to a point where regime change is indeed
they'll land on that stupid-ass island. We're a bunch of idiots.
Finally, I was in Congress when we had intel come before saying that when your old boss, and we were in the Congress trying to decide, should we give the president the authority to go into Iraq? And many of us decided to give him that authority. We learned later that perhaps, I think the president even learned later, maybe all the intel was not quite what we thought it was. So I understand where these people are coming from, Democrats and Republicans alike.
Shut
and
up,
President
Harold.
Trump won 4 years ago, a few years ago, and 8 years back, because he said he didn't want to get into these long wars. So these are legitimate questions, and again, I'm happy that we're supporting our military, but I don't think anyone should be surprised, nor should not want to answer questions about how long is this going to last, you think, and is the threat as imminent as you thought the threat was? These are questions they should answer.
One of the things, I'll give you the floor in one second. I just wanted to mention, I don't have it here, but over at CNN today, they showed the support for the president, at least on the Republican side, really super strong when it comes to the war.
I mean, how can you not? We start the show off at 6 a.m. every morning, and we get a list of people that were our enemies that are dead, that have been threatening us for decades with no repercussions. I mean, look, I love my dear brother Harold, but you can't give the military credit for taking the shots without giving the intelligence community the credit for finding the people to target.
I'm giving them that credit. I'm
just saying that, but they grilled these men and women today without first applauding what their agency has been
shut
doing,
up.
which is locate the targets. Their every move. These people can't even go out for a stroll without being targeted. And so I think we're at a critical time right here, and when you talk about national security, when you talk about the battlefield, they could have been asking legitimate questions. Also, I hate the new terminology that everyone seems to be using, which is imminent threat. Okay, well, are we just going to just let our enemies, what was it imminent when it was 2 assassination attempts from the Iranians on the president of the United States' life, or when they threatened our former national security advisor and they're still under protection, Secretary of State, #1 state sponsor of terror? Like, when did we start saying if it's imminent or not? I'm sorry, if you're in law enforcement or in any other threat,
what are you talking about,
and
dude?
you use that standard to judge what is it, you'll be dead. And so I think you finally got a president that's taking action on things. Now, if you look at the media today, they will say that the world is on fire. I disagree with that. When you look at Cuba, when you look at Venezuela, when you look at Iran, you see liberation in play. Kamala Harris was supposed to deal with the root causes for why people are immigrating to America. You got a president that got rid of the root causes, which is their oppressive leaders right now. So, I mean, I just wish, I understand that is Congress and half of their job is theater. But when you have some of the most pressing issues going on in the world, you would think they would be asking serious questions.
I don't mean to interrupt you or Greg, but it was President Trump's own counterterrorism director that talked about the imminent. So that's where I was coming from. And I think those questions are legitimate questions to ask, and your answer is a powerful answer. But there was a Republican who resigned from his job working for the president, who is a MAGA supporter who invoked the word imminent. So that's where I was coming from.
That guy's a crook. And I mean that in a character way, not in a legitimate, like he doesn't steal things, but he's a crook.
Go ahead.
All right, so I don't like criticizing people who are anti-war because at some point I'm going to be in that corner. Like if we decide to invade Greenland, I'll probably be against that. But I wonder about the motivation here, not among Republicans, but among Democrats, and how quickly they've galvanized, given the success and the effectiveness of the last 2 weeks. And the people that are so much against it are these once outspoken hawks that were like, let's go in, let's get Iran, and now they're not. At least Republicans have been consistently anti-war, the lot that you hear from. But you can't get much better a result than what you're seeing now in so short of a time. And it's exactly what Dems would wish they could have done if they actually had done it.
What?
So my feeling is most, if not all, the opposition.
You're saying the
has
Dems
nothing
are
to do with
jealous?
principles
That's
or
why they
results.
don't.
It's just because it's Trump. It's the only reason they're against something now that they were
It's
once
TDS.
for. Iran is now in the same irrational bucket that they put RFK Jr. in Elon Musk. They loved RFK Jr. He was suing corporations like
before the brainworms.
Big Pharma, you name it.
Monsanto.
Yeah, it's Monsanto. They loved Elon Musk, who made electric cars cool. And then, of course, they're somehow correlated to Trump early on. They are hated.
Never liked Elon Musk. He's a billionaire.
Was
I hate
hated, and now it's
billionaires.
linked to Trump. Now they're the victims, even though they've
Fuck
killed
you.
30 to 40,000
No, we were
of
talking
their
about,
own,
homie.
supporters. I'm not supporters, citizens. But you see my point. Imagine your house is on fire, and firefighters come to save your family. They do, but you're mad because those firefighters voted for Trump. Or you're against the best surgeon in the world operating on your kid because you found out he donated to Trump. You're going to punish yourself, not over the behavior or experience of somebody, but their beliefs. And that's on you. Every single decision, it seems, they make is based on their relationship to Trump. Personal, professional, political. It's a narrow, myopic position to be in.
Just
forced to
self-reporting.
cheer on terrible things.
Self-report
because Trump doesn't like them, or
number
condemn good
10
things
from
because
Gutfeld.
Trump likes them. It's guided by belief and not behavior.
Right, guys.
How do you explain Joe Kent?
Joe Kent, how do I explain him?
They say he's crazy.
I just look at his tweets.
Yeah, the past.
I look at his tweets.
I mean, they're totally contradictory.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. There's something.
Well, maybe he just changed his mind, though, Greg. I mean, I hear you. My only point to you guys, I think everything you're saying, there's a legitimate point to it. But the reason we're having this conversation is because the Strait of Hormuz is closed. If oil prices were down, food prices were down, fertilizer and helium and sugar prices were down, we wouldn't be having a conversation with the fury that we're having. There's no doubt. There's some Democrats that just knee-jerk reaction is to dislike and to hate Trump, and I don't believe that. But I do think it's important to ask basic questions about. Do we believe we're the only ones that can end this war? I don't. I think Iran is going to have a say in when this war ends, and because of their drone technology and other things. So I do wish they'd ask some of those questions, Lars. Again, you and Gregor, I don't like all of the Trump's terrible. The hawks in my party who like the war, who are not opposed to war, but just don't like it because of him. Put those guys to the side. But there are legitimate questions, and I think Kennedy raised some of them, and I'm trying to raise some of them. And I don't just dismiss Mr. Kent because. This guy.
I didn't bring him up. You did, and that's my gut. My gut feeling is that there's something up there.
You could be right.
Also, don't forget, one of the big things that is emerging is this criticism that started early on in the war, which is that Israel made Trump do it.
Yeah.
And the president's rejected that. Caroline Levitt, they've all rejected that, except for that there is this strain that wants that to be the issue.
But that has been disproven. By history, you have 40 years of Trump talking about Iran. He said what he was going to do to Iran in the 80s. He actually telegraphed what he was going to do to the island of Krog or whatever it's called.
And it's also interesting because Joe Kent was supported by President Trump to run for office.
Twice.
And then he lost that seat, so now that's a Democrat seat.
Something happened.
Got him a position at the administration.
Something happened.
And I also admire for him for resigning. If he came to the conclusion that he could not support it and he resigned, absolutely, that's what he should do.
I think you guys are going on limited information. That's all I'm going to say.
But Greg, if
we were doing this as a segment, I would probably have more to say. But I'm telling you right now, you brought this up in a laudable way, and I'm suspect of his intentions.
And you could be right. And you know what? You could be wrong too, brother. He could very well.
No, I'm never wrong, Harold. I thought you knew that.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
Tim Pool is traveling the country. He's going from Florida to Texas. Either he's been kicked out of his house by his partner or wife, or I don't know if he's traveling with his kids, or he's going around trying to, I don't know, sell a show to somebody. Right. I mean, that could be a part of it too.
Looking to replace a sponsor?
We don't know. But he's in, it must be in Austin, Texas. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be interesting to see if Rogan comes on his show. Wonder if he's brought the whole thing to him.
Rogan should have him on. It'd be an epic conversation.
That would be epic.
Wow.
Totally epic. So apparently Alex Jones either stumbled into the studio or was invited and
broke through the wall like Kool-Aid Man.
And as We Are Everywhere writes on the IM, his business is in the hangover phase. Not quite. Here is Tim Pool interviewing Alex Jones. And here we go.
Our creation.
Indeed. The argument.
So when we come back, I'll come back.
Wait a second. Can we go back?
I didn't mean to start it there.
That was amazing. That was amazing. Now understand that Tim Pool is in a tough position here because, and I would say like Tim is actually quite good at denying reality, right? And maintaining some disposition, but here it's right in his face, and his audience can see reality, and Tim can't really address it because he has too much invested in like maintaining a good relationship with Alex Jones. He's also, I think, afraid of him. I think he also wants his audience, and so it creates a chill. Like, I'm trying to think, like, how would I react if Alex Jones came in here and was like that? And I think I know exactly how I would react. I'd have one question for him. See if you can figure out from the way that Alex Jones is talking, if you can figure out what that one question would be. The first question.
Workers, you start taxing
and then what? And then universal basic income? Yeah, that's not going to work.
That's what he's thinking of.
It is not going to work. That you are going to
made obsolete by our own creation.
Indeed.
The argument. So when we come back, I'm gonna come back.
Come back whenever you want.
How long are you in Austin?
Couple weeks.
Here for South by Southwest.
We're not here for it, but we're here during it. You know, one of the reasons I came down here is I was going to be playing poker at the lodge, and then the state shut them down. I'm pissed about it.
What's weird was I texted you a week ago. Somebody texted me and said, "Hey, Tim's here, come on the show." I'm like, "Am I supposed to be on your show?" Like, I don't know, but play poker. But
yeah, well, we want to do a poker game with you and a few other people. Not so much about poker, but about having fun, goofing off, and I think it'd be really fun to play a game.
I'm ready. I'm ready. But don't follow me at Real Life Shows on X, Infowars.com. We're getting shut down. We beat so many attacks, but finally we're shutting down like the middle of next month.
Wow.
It's gonna be insane what happens. People can, you know.
Yeah. So this is
oh my God. Can anyone guess what the first question I would be asking at this point is?
No.
I mean, you can get
no idea.
Alcohol.
Yeah, exactly.
How you doing, buddy?
Yeah. Hey, man. A little early to be drinking. You been drinking at all, or is it?
I started late though.
Okay.
I've had conversations like this with unfortunate people on the street. Indeed.
Yeah. So
the
this
fake
is
receiverships, the fake auctions, all of it's happening right now.
So what are you gonna do? You're launching a new thing, or what are you doing?
Yeah, auctions now. We're really fine.
All right. Well, are you leaving? Is that why you're saying all this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am exhausted, brother.
Well, it's good to have you.
This is 4 a.m. Unless you do a table dance for me.
No.
He's not on this table.
None of this? Yeah.
Maybe next time.
These things are probably like
yeah,
$20.
it's really not going to withstand anybody.
Oh, no, these are okay.
Well, my wife over there.
Pull it off.
Maybe do a table dance.
You sound tired. You should look at
I'm extremely exhausted.
Have a nice rest, man.
Well, it's good having you, brother. Just come back whenever you want.
Go for hours, right?
Yeah, we're gonna go for another 2 hours.
I want to come back.
You are allowed. That is acceptable.
Here for 2 weeks?
Yes, sir.
Oh, please throw
Do not
up.
visit Real Life Shows on X. Don't follow it.
Too late. They're there right now. Real Alex Jones on X. Did you get it?
But imagine a giant Joe Rogan pussy. right up there. I mean,
like a jellyfish.
teleported up into Joe Rogan's vagina.
Let me explain this.
Yeah, please
Please. So at the very beginning of this interview, probably the first thing Alex Jones says is something about Joe Rogan's supposed vagina. And what they're referring to is Joe Rogan said he was uncomfortable with having a wrestling match on the White House lawn while there's a war on because Joe thinks it would be a target for an Iranian strike. And
wait a second.
What?
Is that part true?
About Rogan?
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. They played a clip of Rogan saying, like, I'm concerned about if this war's still on, if we can do
Don't
this.
you think also maybe there should be a concern of like, it sort of feels like it's in poor taste when we have like U.S. service men and women in harm's way to have a spectacle on the front lawn of the White House.
Little bit bread
What
and
is that?
circus-y, and I mean, even I've seen fighters say, "Yeah, I don't want to fight for a bunch of billionaires who are covering up for the Epstein."
Oh,
files."
nice.
But instead, Rogan says it's a security issue.
Yeah, and so
June 14th.
You can imagine the Iranians saying, let's just wait and see if they do some stunt on the lawn of the White House. That's when we strike.
Yes.
85,000 people.
Wait, that's not real though. Because how are they going to? I've heard that number, but how is that even possible?
That's what Dana White said.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
85,000 people on the front on the lawn of the lawn of the White House.
That's what Dana White said.
What?
I'll double check.
No.
Well, Uncle's like, no.
I've been to that lawn.
No, that's
and,
no.
You're not
He's
fitting
like,
85,000 people on.
He's
there.
like, nope, not happening.
Let's just hear this a little bit because I'm curious about the
how he gets up.
Yeah.
I think you don't want to leave. I think you want to keep talking about this.
I want the memes of Joe Rogan's vagina. Can you imagine how big it's about to be?
You know, the thing about Joe is
everybody's uncomfortable.
The
there.
story gets a lot of traction, which creates this ripple effect where Joe's just a guy with an opinion. And I think he's got pretty good opinions. I agree with a lot of them. I disagree with some of them. And then we end up
Tim Pool fence sitting,
leading our story because all these websites start running Joe Rogan's opinion as if it's the biggest news of the day. Like Joe Rogan said a thing. And then the issue for us is this is what people are asking us about. Like, hey, did you see what Joe Rogan was saying about the UFC and this UFC fight? And I'm like, okay. I guess like what was it, a couple days ago?
Yeah.
They were like, I think that Joe Rogan questioning the war in Iran is big, and it's because he sort of represents independent voters. Exactly. So when he has an opinion, all these news outlets write about it. I'm sure that's actually pretty weird for Joe, who's just a comedian hanging out with his friends doing a podcast, but he represents the middle of the road voter. So everybody has to be like, if there's a middle of the road voter is going to say a thing,
he's an expert at drunkenese.
He's the archetype.
He's the
archetype.
So, Joe, that's why you represent the middle of the road.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
All right, 2 weeks.
I'll come back next week as I'm ready to go.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right,
Talk to Lisa. She'll get you set up.
You did well, Lord Vader.
Do it.
Do it. I love you guys.
Do it. All right, man. Thanks for
Alex. Good.
Take care of yourself, man.
Use the force, Jones.
Luke Radowski. I knew this guy like 20 years ago.
You did.
21 years ago.
21 years.
What's coming out? What's all room?
No. It got creepy.
Pete, that's a joke. When we first meet?
We met in Chicago during the 9/11 Truth Rally with the.
Oh, we met at the 9/11 Truth Rally.
We
oh yeah, remember when we were all just? Oh my God, I can't. This is amazing.
This reminds me of every interaction I've had with a wasted individual. You keep thinking it's over, and it just keeps going.
You think you're out.
Yeah.
Wait, how do I know you?
How do I know
you?
you?
For 2 hours, you just noticed I was here?
Just recognizing you.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, I know you. 2 hours ago.
Oh yeah, you're
Hey,
Is there some interaction with Ozempic and alcohol? I don't know.
I don't know, dude. Yeah.
There is apparently, I have read that there is interaction between Ozempic, alcohol, and losing every penny of millions upon millions of dollars.
There is.
Those three things. When you combine
There's
those three things, it's really
over.
dangerous.
Yes.
It's a working paper. It's not peer reviewed yet. But yeah, there are connections.
Exactly. Honestly, alcohol and loss of tens of millions of dollars don't go together.
Oh, there's getting up here. We can watch him get up.
Okay.
Oh, here he is. I think.
Let's see him stick the landing.
Love you guys.
Let's go back to talking about the Claude having a soul.
Claude having a giant pee-pee.
It's got a soul.
Claude has an 8-foot dick.
So here's I think the big issue
dick.
comes into this.
My dick.
Means you can argue it doesn't have a soul. It's not.
Cause Mike.
But if you put a human being behind
is
it,
so worried about getting demonetized or something.
He's like,
I know.
oh
He's just
shit. He's like, oh please.
I gotta be able to monetize this.
Oh shit.
Is Alex Jones coming back this week?
See you every 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks.
I come to play poker. Or am I gonna be?
Yeah, for 2 weeks. That's good.
Wow. That is fun. I certainly hope that he comes back. Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern
Like, I hope
for
he
about
comes
2.5
back.
hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
How this works out, I don't know. Could be fabulous, could be World War III.
When the Americans ask Britain to help,
Okay, guys.
we've got to say yes. That is part of the special relationship.
Your account
Daddy.
of British policy, I'm afraid, is a travesty.
Now, hang on.
The Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
The idea that Donald Trump didn't think of it, that is one of the biggest narrative lies I've seen in a long time.
I agree.
Just to correct you on one thing, Trump literally said yesterday nobody expected that about the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, right. Nobody expected that.
Son of a bitch comes in and starts talking over me.
America first, right there. American flag, bro. Right
Oh,
there.
yeah, my ass.
Cenk, for
Here's-
15
hey,
minutes,
can I
you've
just
managed
effing
to
talk?
stay relatively calm. Don't blow it now. Look, they spent billions on day
okay,
Oh,
now
one of
you're
the war.
cutting me off, Piers.
These are tiny amounts of money you're talking
You're
about.
making up.
Tiny amounts of money.
Yeah.
Piers, are you mental?
Spent on day one of the war.
$337 million.
Joe Kent is a Gold Star husband, a retired Green Beret, and a veteran of 11 combat tours across 20 years' service in the U.S. Army. He blamed the October 7th terror attack on America's failure to curtail Iran's threat. And amid a flurry of media criticism about reported links to far-right groups, he publicly disavowed the likes of Nick Fuentes. All of this earned him the endorsement of American conservative commentators as he sought political office. President Trump then appointed him as the top counterterrorism official in the US, a position from which he dramatically resigned yesterday. His statement said, "I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran poses no imminent threat to our nation. It's clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby." Well, Joe Kent is now facing the full force of the war spin machine, spearheaded by Ben Shapiro, Lindsey Graham and Mark Levin, who says he should be investigated for espionage.
What are you doing? You're giving aid and comfort to a lie. There was an imminent threat. How much more imminent could you be within 2 weeks having enough material to make 10 bombs? How close could you come? Not much.
Now, that is conspiracy trash. It's also kind of strange since President Trump has said that it's conspiracy trash. So apparently, Trump is so deeply enthralled to those strange, powerful American lobbies. We're not going to say it. That he apparently has been so bamboozled by them that he's still under the impression that he's his own man.
Well, for his part, President Trump, who appointed Joe Kent as the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, said he's not a smart person and has always been weak on security. If nothing else, it's another lesson in how quickly the worm can turn on those who step out of line. And in a much more consequential pivot, the president is now threatening to leave NATO altogether over its failure, as he sees it, to help police the Strait of Hormuz.
NATO's making a very foolish mistake, and I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test. because we don't need them, but they should have been there.
Well, it's the fact that every single one of America's allies has a major interest in opening the Strait of Hormuz to the billions of barrels of oil which are supposed to pass through it. It's also a fact that the world's oil was flowing freely through the open strait until Israel and the United States started this war. And the crisis over Hormuz is really a perfect snapshot of the entire Iran saga. No amount of bombing is going to ever change the fact that Iran's border covers the entire 100-mile waterway. It will always be able to choke the world's economy with its divers, mines, and small boats unless the regime is changed or controlled. And that will take precisely the type of conflict that everybody says they want to avoid. Well, joining me to discuss all of this is Ben Hodges, retired US Army officer and commanding general, Sir Richard Dalton, the former UK ambassador to the Islamic Republic of Iran, Cenk Uygur, founder and CEO of the Young Turks, and Ben Ferguson, co-host of The Verdict with Ted Cruz. Well, welcome to all of you. Some old friends and some new faces. It should be a lively debate here. Let me start with you, Ben Hodges. You're a retired American Army officer. You're a commanding general. From a purely military perspective, what is your assessment of how this war has gone so far?
Well, of course, I have to tip my hat to the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Air Force, and the Israeli Air Forces, and our intelligence professionals who have helped them accomplish what's been done so far. I mean, there's no denying from a military standpoint, enormous damage done to Iran's military capabilities.
Oh, right. But could two things be true at once? That is all true, and that the combined firepower of the American and Israeli military has been overwhelmingly successful purely at targeting Iranian military assets and so on, but that at the same time, the Iranians have been fighting a slightly tangential war, which has been throttling the Strait of Hormuz and attacking the neighboring Gulf states in a way that is clearly deterring people from visiting them and clearly making a lot of people get on planes and get out of there. And that their strategy appears to be meeting military might with economic tactics, which are proving to be unexpectedly effective.
Well, you've put your finger on the key issue. What our military is doing is exactly what they were told to do, but that's not going to get us to where we need to be strategically. There are, in fact, two wars going on in parallel. The Iranians are fighting a completely different war, partly because they knew that they would never be able to stand up to U.S. and Israeli firepower, and I think they've been preparing for this possibility for decades.
They can stand up to it, though. What do you mean?
After so many of the leaders were lost in the opening hours, they still launched huge numbers of counterstrikes against other countries, escalating the conflict horizontally to make it much more difficult for the U.S. to accomplish whatever it is we wanted to accomplish. Now, and I have to say this, it's not entirely clear exactly what the desired end state is. There's been, for the U.S., there's been a lot of talk about we don't want the Iranians to have nuclear weapons. True. We don't want them to be able to launch ballistic missiles. True. Then there was talk about regime change, then backed away. We want to protect the protesters. You don't hear anything about that anymore.
Yeah.
And then today, the
That's kind of true,
in charge
actually.
of Central Command, who's doing a hell of a good job, he said, you know, we've got to make sure that we deter the Iranians from ever disrupting oil flow through the strait. That's a great objective. But that was not even mentioned 19 days ago.
No.
So this is the problem when there's not a clearly defined end state. This is how you get mission creep, and that's what really worries me the most.
Right, Sir Richard Dalton, welcome to Uncensored. I mean, just from a diplomatic point of view, the Trump administration appears to be saying that we had no idea the Iranians might attack the neighboring Gulf states, which I find extremely hard to believe. I mean, the two things that I would have thought would be entirely predictable if the Americans and Israelis launched up such a massive attack on Iran would be that they would try and close down the Strait of Hormuz, and they would probably attack American bases along the Gulf states.
Oh, shit.
That would be the leverage they could then get themselves. Why would anyone be surprised by this?
There was no reason to be surprised. This kind of a war has been war gamed on many occasions in Washington,
and the end result was always conflict over the Strait of Hormuz. And if the US Navy got in close, losses of large United States
Thousands.
naval ships. I think of a factor that hasn't been brought to play in public discussion yet, and I think it's worth asking for comment from the United States side of this discussion on it, which is when I was involved in the early part of this century and subsequently in Track 3, Track 2 endeavors, the assumption about Israeli intentions was that they wouldn't attack Iran unless the sword was at their throats, the expression they used. And that was meaning if a Iranian nuclear weapon was unstoppable. And there's no evidence produced yet to justify the claim that that point had been reached by January, February this year. And personally, I don't believe it. I do not think an Iranian nuclear weapon was inevitable. Secondly, there's been a change of military advice in the United States. On previous occasions when Netanyahu, at least two to my knowledge, tried to sucker the United States into this kind of a war, the chiefs of the defense staff said, well, hold on, there are major consequences separate from an attack on Iran and whether that's going to go well, namely a regional war and the Straits of Hormuz being brought into play. Now, this time, the chiefs of staff have not stood their ground. They've yielded to their commander-in-chief's totally superficial and ignorant analysis of the situation, not being interested to look at it in depth, and saying, because of this concept of American exceptionalism, that they can do what they want because they're so powerful, let's go with what Netanyahu wants to do.
Yeah. Well, Ben Ferguson, I can see you pulling a number of faces there. It's good to see your face remains Botox-free, so you're able to do that, unlike the Oscars we witnessed at the weekend. But in relation to this, you know, I'm really concerned about this, and I'm concerned about where Donald Trump's headed. I was asked on the BBC at the weekend, does he really have a clue what to do here? And I replied, honestly, I don't think he does, because I think unlike Venezuela, which he likened this to very early on, it would be another Venezuela, he's decapitated the head of the regime, killed the Ayatollah and many of the top people, and carries on doing that. But there's a kind of asymmetric war going on that seems to be completely oblivious to that affecting any kind of regime change. The IRGC are still clearly in control. There is no sign of any uprising
I gotta
on the
go,
street
chat.
whatsoever.
I'll see you guys tomorrow.